Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left,
center, and sometimes a little crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Great show coming up today. Chris Murray joins us in the studio. You know him from First and 14th Law. He's a partner there, giving us the updates on what was a disastrous day for Michael Cohen, admitted to stealing on the stand. We'll cover that in the 6 o'clock hour. 7 o'clock hour, Gays Against Groomers joins us. They've working on a new ballot initiative in Colorado to keep men from competing in women's sports. Rich Guggenheim will be joining us from Gays Against Groomers. We'll analyze Pope Francis in 60 minutes in the 8 o'clock hour. And then Mike Buck, no relation to Ken Buck, running for Elbert County Commissioner. Why does this matter? Because there's an effort in Elbert County to turn Elbert County into Aurora and basically put thousands of homes throughout the entire county. And how's that going to change the state? So if you've noticed anything about Douglas County, it ain't the same county it was 10 years ago. So this high-density multifamily development changes the landscape a lot. So we'll be talking to Mike. He's running for Elbert County Commissioner in the 9 o'clock hour. All right, let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. 43 and cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-70s today. Expect more thunderstorms this afternoon after Yuma was pummeled with hail last night in northeastern Colorado.
It's crazy out east.
Also,
we got a lot of wind. I had to sleep with earbuds in last night.
Did you?
Yeah.
You got a lot of wind, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's that time of year, like I tell my boys, you see the clouds roll in from the west and then look to the east at night in the spring and summer, and you'll see a light show, and
that's
all the stuff, builds, and all the thunderstorms and the rain that they need occurs in eastern and northeastern Colorado and southeastern Colorado. So the 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: officials at Denver's Auraria campus say all the grass on the Tivoli Quad has to be replaced following the conclusion of Hamas supporter campouts. It'll cost nearly $300,000. Their protests lasted more than 3 weeks as demonstrators pitched tents throughout the quad, leaving large patches of damaged and dead grass. Cleanup crews found drug paraphernalia and human waste. That is disgusting, prompting biohazard concerns. Boy, isn't that the truth? Haviv Rediger from the Times of Israel on with Hugh Hewitt this morning, something these young people could consume. The latest on Israel getting nearly 1 million Palestinians out of Rafah so they can rid the Islamo-Nazis who live in the tunnels.
In a week and a half, we moved 1 million people. And so it is possible, and we are going into Rafah, and we can actually do quite a bit of damage to Hamas there. That's all good news. I mean, it's good news with the enormous caveat, of course, that the Palestinians there are displaced and suffering. That's how you fight Hamas. There is no other way to fight Hamas. Hamas makes sure of it.
At DU, yeah.
These folks sound like something out of Lord of the Rings, the tunnel people.
Right.
Absolutely. You're living down, coming out of the ground. Isn't that right out of Lord of the Rings?
As far as I know, I'm not a aficionado, but I'm sure Billy can correct me.
Yeah, no.
What did they dig? Who's the people they dug out of the ground? Isn't that one of them?
Who was that?
Which people dug out of the ground when? Again,
tunnels
there's a lot
and
of
all types of stuff.
Dwarves?
No, not the dwarves, but the bad guys. Weren't they in the ground?
Dwarves.
Didn't they dig them out of the ground?
I do not understand the reference that you're making, because they're orcs.
Yeah, the orcs. That's it.
Not necessarily dug into the ground. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I
remember they were digging them out. Some of those dudes. They
are. They are. Not necessarily. No, I mean,
I didn't read the books. I rely entirely on the movie.
Yeah, no, they're not really dug out of the ground per se. No.
Where were
really.
they?
Straight.
No, really.
We'll figure it out.
No. Yeah, it's an entirely another race. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
What time is it? At DU, Hamas supporters believed to have made a fake 911 call on campus so they could distract security and trash an academic building. They spray painted it, and the sidewalk leading up to the building, they painted derogatory statements about Lockheed Martin on the walkway bricks. I doubt if any of them will be forced to clean it up. A paddleboarder died at Harvey Gap State Park in Garfield County over the weekend. The paddleboarder fell into the Grass Valley Reservoir Saturday when strong winds moved through the area. Officials say he was with a group of 3 other paddleboarders and reportedly wasn't wearing a life jacket. Rescuers eventually located his body around 10 o'clock that night. Some World War II artifacts have been recovered after a trailer was stolen in Englewood last month. The trailer belonged to the 10th Mountain Division Living History Display Group, who provide museum quality war artifacts for exhibits. Police say the trailer was recovered a few miles away from where it was stolen. It's hard to celebrate as many of the artifacts are still missing. Englewood police working to identify a person of interest seen in the footage. President Biden pushing for a bipartisan border security bill in the Senate. Biden met with Speaker Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell Monday, with the White House saying that he reiterated that congressional Republicans should stop playing politics and act quickly. Conservatives and most Americans know that the president could lock down the border tomorrow if he wanted to. He and the left want chaos and division, and they're seeing it with the open borders right now. Former President Trump's defense team expected to rest its case today in the campaign derailment trial.
I'm not allowed to have anything to do with politics because I'm sitting in a very freezing cold courtroom for the last 4 weeks. It's very unfair. They have no case. They have no crime.
It's unclear if Trump will testify on his own today. Attorneys for Trump reportedly told Judge Juan Marsham that they were calling only 3 witnesses, but that was subject to change. News is brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. It's 39 in Lafayette, 40 in Highlands Ranch, 43 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on this terrific Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Temperatures reaching the 70s today with afternoon showers and thunderstorms likely, with some showers and thunderstorms lingering through late evening and early tonight. A few could be strong. Low 70s today, mid 40s tonight. Noticeably cooler Tuesday. Highs only low 60s with showers and a few thunderstorms lingering through Tuesday night. Warming back to near 70 for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with a few late day showers and thunderstorms possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, joining us for our traditional...
I think they're made of slime, what you're thinking of, at the orcs.
I remember in the movie they dug down into the ground.
Yeah.
And then this big beast came out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see it's sorcery involved with slime and other goo and ooze and not necessarily dirt. There are some that are done from stone, but that's a different part of the story. But yeah, that's what's confused. But yeah, it's all sorts of
just
slime
the tunnel people.
And not necessarily. But yeah, there's a different set of stories out there that do tunnel people. But yeah, it's a whole different
technically. So Chris Murray joins us in studio. He's a partner with First and 14th Law to give us an update on the Trump trials. But Chris, before we get into that, I got a gift for you guys.
Well, hold on, I got nothing for you on the tunnel people. I can't help you there.
Let's get into a debate about Lord of the Rings. Okay, so I am the king of Instagram shopping.
Oh man, what do we got here?
Okay, and when I saw these, so I've known Chris Murray for years, and he used to represent me when I ran a small little digital ad agency, and has been a great friend. And Chris, by the way, paced me one time when I ran the Leadville 100 and crashed and burned at about mile 75.
Yeah,
so he was dragging
which
me
is by the way,
through.
that's after 2 full marathons. Yeah, Jeff
right.
had the temerity to crash and burn. Yeah.
And he's basically helping me along as I quit the race at mile 75. So I saw these. So Chris was with another law firm for many years, and basically he and the smartest people I know went and created First and 14th. And I love smart people. It's so fun to watch you guys just kick butt. And I saw these on Instagram and I was like, oh this is perfect. Okay. So this is my version of a hat that says send lawyers, guns, and money. And so I got a whole bunch of them for you guys.
Oh man,
all
right on.
At the new law firm First and 14th.
These will be excellent client gifts for sure. And we will probably wear these around the office. But I can promise you that I will be wearing the black one around the office. This is fantastic.
So the hat says,
I'll put this on right now.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. And I think that's perfect for conservatives here in Colorado.
Although this is
trying to fight the battles we're fighting.
This is set up here for a very small-headed lawyer. I have to make it a little bit larger.
You guys naturally have those big heads.
There we go. All right, now. So yeah, I like that. Doesn't work so well with the headphones.
I was going to say you got to have these kind of inner ones.
Thank you, sir. Right? I appreciate that very much.
And it's a sign of affection in my family if I buy you stuff from Instagram. I'm the king of Instagram shopping, and the way they make it simple to purchase, this is like literally something pops up and you press a button and it shows up a few days later.
This is just like in my family. It's a sign of affection if I buy you something from 7-Eleven.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Trump trials. New York Times reporting the 5 takeaways from Trump's criminal trial. The judge became furious with a defense witness, and Michael Cohen kept his cool. Here's the interesting thing about how the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal are covering Michael Cohen, because he was caught in an outright lie yesterday.
He was caught in 2
stealing.
Outright lies. Yeah. He was caught in 2 outright lies.
Lies and stealing from Donald Trump. And the New York Times reports, well, at least he kept his cool.
And I'll get into Cohen's testimony. So, since I was here last week, right? Last week, I think my sort of summation for your listeners was, so far the prosecution has sort of kept this on the rails, right? It's not a great case, but they were doing sort of what they needed to do to have a chance at a conviction. This was the end. Friday to yesterday with Michael Cohen's testimony was an unmitigated disaster for the prosecution in this case. And frankly, I don't know how the New York Times, I haven't looked at the New York Times's summary, but if that's actually their coverage,
yes,
they're doing their readers a disservice, because their readers are going to wonder how the hell this guy got acquitted. Right. Because after Cohen's testimony, you don't have to like Donald Trump. You can actually hate Donald Trump actively, right? If you're sitting in that jury, I don't know how you credit a thing that Michael Cohen has told you. And the problem with that is that Michael Cohen is the only witness that is able to say Donald Trump knew what was going on with these payments. If you don't believe Michael Cohen, you can't convict Donald Trump. And so what Donald Trump's legal team, and I like lawyers who are really, really good, and I knew nothing about Todd Blanche before this trial. Todd did an absolute, I don't know him from Adam, right? But just a masterful job with Michael Cohen and cross-examine. He's clearly a very good lawyer, and just eviscerated the guy's credibility.
So this is from the Washington Post. Cohen finished 4 days of testimony on Monday, telling the jury that he was acting at Trump's direction when he arranged a $130,000 payment. But they brought up the fact that there were certain times where Cohen had been invoicing the Trump operation for additional money than he was actually paying out, one being to Redfin to manipulate a poll.
Close to Red Finch.
That's right. Red Finch.
Red Finch. And Red Finch did a bunch of different technology and financial work for the Trump organization. But Michael Cohen, so he, by the way, the reason why this was especially damaging is he lumped this payment together with the Stormy Daniels reimbursement, right? Alleged Stormy Daniels reimbursement. And so there was an invoice from this company called Red Finch. It doesn't really matter what they were doing, but they were doing something at Mr. Cohen's behest.
They were manipulating the poll.
Exactly. Yeah, they were manipulating a poll and being paid to do it.
Right.
And so they invoiced the Trump organization $50,000, right, for that cost. Cohen apparently says, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and report that they invoiced us a full $50,000 and ask for that $50,000 as reimbursement to me so I can go make the payment. He got the $50,000. He also got the $130,000 for the payment to Stormy Daniels, allegedly, according to his testimony. And he lumps them together, and he only pays Red Finch $20,000.
Right.
Gets Red Finch to settle the invoice for $20,000. Says, "Hey, $50,000's too much. I'm not going to pay you all of that."
Well, and Trump wasn't happy with Red Finch's services, so
exactly.
He wanted to win this poll on top executive in the 20th century or something on CNBC.
That's right.
And look, I've been around guys like Trump, and they're a little eclectic. Like they get like these little pet projects. Totally. And I was working on a movie promotion one time, and this guy reminds me a lot of Donald Trump, very wealthy, very successful. And one day he called me and was like, "Jeff, tomorrow I want to screen my film in Times Square. And I will," and you're like, okay. And he's like, "I will pay you. Go. And you're like, all right. And you got to try to find people. We're finding a movie theater in Times Square and all this stuff to try to put together. And I jumped on a plane from DC overnight. So these guys sometimes get like a little eclectic, and they get like hyper focused on a little project. So you go out there and you try to deliver for your client.
Right.
And in this case, Trump's not happy with Red Finch, so he doesn't want to pay him anything. But Michael Cohen invoices him for $50,000 anyways, and settles with Red Finch for
20. So
for
exactly,
20.
Michael Cohen uses Donald Trump's peak to negotiate the bill down to $20,000 with Red Finch. Right? Red Finch says, "Fine, we'll take less than half of what we charge you."
Yeah.
Michael Cohen tells the Trump organization, "Sorry, they wouldn't move on the bill. We got to pay him." Right? So the Trump organization pays him the full 50. He gives Red Finch 20, pockets the 30. That is theft, right? I mean, that is you don't need to go to law school to know what that is. That's stealing. That is theft. And it's theft by deception.
Yeah.
Right. It is a bigger felony in New York than what Trump is accused of. And Michael Cohen is asked directly, "So you stole from the Trump organization?" "Yes, I did." That was his answer. "Yes, I did, sir." Right. And I don't know that's as close to in a modern trial as a Perry Mason moment, right? As you're gonna get, right? Where you could hear a pin drop in a courtroom because we've just watched some guy's guts get laid out in the middle of the courtroom. Credibility-wise,
the key witness to testify against Donald Trump has not only been found to lie with regards to the October 24th call,
26th,
October 26th call, and then now has admitted to stealing from the organization, and we're supposed to trust his testimony against the president of the United States.
Well, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought up the lie about the call on the 26th, because I actually think that is the worst thing that happened to him.
Really?
Because look, this call, let's remember what Michael Cohen testified to. If your listeners haven't been following it that closely, I think it was on Thursday last week, or maybe, it was Thursday last week. Michael Cohen, his testimony led up to, and on the 26th of October, I called Donald Trump. I remember this call. It was in the evening, right? I called him and I told him, the money to Stormy has been paid. It's taken care of, right? Why is that so important? Because look, there's no question Stormy Daniels received, and by the way, this leaves aside whether the payment was even illegal, even if Trump knew about it, right? We discussed that last week. There's a real argument. I mean, it's these sorts of payments get made all the time. But let's imagine for a minute that payment is illegal. Donald Trump has to know it was made, right? Donald Trump has to know that it was made and has to know that the books were cooked in order to hide the purpose of the payment. And the only piece of testimony, the only piece of direct testimony in this trial that connects Donald Trump to that payment and knowing that Michael Cohen was going to hide it as quote unquote legal services on the books is this call on the 26th. And what did Trump's attorney expose? The call on the 26th wasn't to Trump at all. It was to Trump's bodyguard complaining about a 14-year-old who was prank calling Michael Cohen and irritating him.
Can we just stop for a second and reflect on the fact that we don't know who this 14-year-old is? Because at this point, they're now an adult, right? Because this was, I would really like to know who this person is. Because if you're 14 years old, we were talking a little bit about this. When I was 14 years old, I was not prank phone calling lawyers for the president of the United States. I was prank phone calling the 7-Eleven on the corner.
No, 100%. This guy, I mean, this 14-year-old, whoever this person was, I would bet they're wildly successful now. Right? Yeah. It's a very precocious 14-year-old.
It's like it's the Bart Simpson of this case. Who is the Bart Simpson that's calling Moe's Tavern?
Well, and the best part is like it lives for like this person is, I hope, privately laughing somewhere, right? Because what they did is living forever in these texts, right? And it became, I mean, there's just something so small. Right. I mean, because what Donald Trump's lawyers really did a good job of was making Michael Cohen small.
Yes.
Right. Turning him into a petty, and which, by the way, I mean, I think unfortunately lines up. I mean, and you could say, hey, look, if I was in Michael Cohen's shoes, I'd be feeling pretty petty and vindictive. Fair enough. Right. I think that's fine. But they've made him small. They've made him into this, you know, and the way they contrasted with, so you're grifting $30,000 lying to your company and you're whining to your boss's bodyguard that a 14-year-old won't stop calling you and you want it to stop. And by the way, you're lying to this jury that was the call where you told Donald Trump, okay, I mean, this is going to be the closing argument, right? And then you lied to the jury that was the call where you told Donald Trump. This is the magical call where you told him about these payments and that you were going to cook the books. Come on. I don't see how a jury believes it.
So fireworks yesterday with the first witness, I believe, or maybe it was the second witness as the defense, called Robert Costello. Infuriated the judge. What happened there?
So Robert Costello was a lawyer for Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen waived his attorney-client privilege to Mr. Costello. And so, by the way that works, just for your listeners, so if you're the client, you own the attorney-client privilege. The client can keep a lawyer from testifying, right? If a client says, actually, lawyer, I would like you to go testify, right? Then the lawyer has to go testify. If the lawyer is a witness and has heard stuff that's relevant, even in the attorney-client relationship, if the client is saying, I don't care about any of that, I don't want it.
Why would Cohen do that?
He did it in cooperating with prosecutors, right? And so, once you waive it, it's waived forever. It's gone, right?
So both sides can then access. Yeah.
That's exactly
gotcha.
Right. So anyway, so this is Michael Cohen's former attorney, basically testifying that what Cohen just testified to is not at all what he heard. And so, in the middle of his testimony, this guy's a lawyer, remember, and there were objections being made by the prosecution to some of the questions that were being asked of him by the defense. And Judge Merchan was sustaining many of those objections. That means saying the prosecution's right, move on to a different question. And eventually, I guess he started clearing his throat or saying, come on, something like that.
Rolling his eyes.
And the judge...
I've got teenagers at home. I know that.
Yeah, exactly. The judge cleared the courtroom and instructed him not to do that. And apparently, at some point, he thought that Costello was just staring at him too directly, and he asked him if he was staring at him. And of course, we don't have cameras in the courtroom, right? So we can't know if that actually happened. But that's another new one in this trial. I've never heard of a witness staring a judge down. I've never heard of it.
So reading that, look, both these guys are in the New York legal profession, right? Yeah. So they're at the same cocktail parties. The sense I got reading that was these guys, they know each other. They've been in the field. They've been around each other long enough. And it was stop with the BS type of stare down. And the fact that the witness kind of elevated himself to being able to do that against the judge, that the judge was like, that's the nerve point, right? That's the pressure point. That's where the first time you've seen Mershon Merchant shut down the trial, kick everybody out, have the conversation, right? Yeah. Like that's a different level than, just some witness that came in off the street, or it seemed way more personal.
I think that's reasonable speculation. That's possible. These guys seem like they're around the same age, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
they may, the lawyer may know the judge from before he was a judge, right? So who knows? But I'll just say that, I think that so far Costello's testimony has been also very good for the defense. And after Cohen has been made into a liar, right, it's a lot easier to believe his lawyer when his lawyer says, look, actually, what this guy told me was that he kept Trump in the dark about all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, clearly he's taking money from the company.
Bingo.
All right. Brad Smith. I don't know if this name came across your desk, but yesterday he was tweeting that he was essentially going to be the expert witness on FEC law.
Right.
And that because there were so many restrictions that the judge and the prosecution were going to try to put on his testimony, that the Trump team just decided not to call him.
Right.
Can you give any background on that?
Yeah, sure. So Brad Smith is an expert in campaign finance law, right? And he's nationally known. Lots of people work with him if they've got cases in front of the Federal Election Commission, right? So this is a bona fide expert in federal election regulations. Look, like I actually think that the issue of I think him not testifying is actually going to end up helping the Trump team.
Interesting.
Here's why. Because what he was going to testify to, I would guess, is the difference, right? Basically, how an illegal contribution works, how difficult it is to prove that crime, right? Why Cohen was convicted of it, right? Why David Pecker and the National Enquirer were found liable for it, but why Trump and the Trump organization could not under the regulations from the Federal Election Commission. I got to tell you, like, I think that sort of technical stuff for the jury puts him to sleep. I think that sort of technical question for the jury just puts him to sleep. And I think that judges don't like other lawyers coming in and saying, I'm an expert. Oh, what are you an expert in, sir? I'm an expert in the law. Well, the judges usually say, shoot, I'm an expert in the law. We've got enough lawyers here. And the jury's job is not to parse legal conclusions. Their job is to figure out facts. So there have been some questionable decisions in this court. I actually think the limitations on Brad Smith's testimony probably reasonable. And I actually think it ends up helping President Trump's defense that he doesn't testify.
We got a few calls coming in here. I want to get to them in just a second. Tony, you'll be up next. I want to talk to you real quick about QC Kinetics Denver. Look, as you get older, you're dealing with pain in your joints, pain in your back, robbing you of the joy in your life. Well, you're not alone. This type of pain is affecting millions and impacting the quality of lives. But there's hope. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, lower back pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement. Why risk surgery when there's a safer option? With no downtime and a free consultation, QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Call 303-900-8986 or visit painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. That's 303-900-8986 or painfreecolorado.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. Let's go to the phone lines here. Tony Littleton, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, good morning. So a couple questions for you. One, the call being the only reference, the only proof that Trump was ever fully brought in the loop. What about that? What about the deal where they have the NDA and then the notes in Weisselberg's writing showing the $130,000, then grossing it up to cover his taxes, and broken all down in Weisselberg's writing, and then notes on showing that they're going to divide that by 12 to pay it back to, and that was a meeting with Weisselberg.
That's a good question. That's a good question, Tony. Chris?
Tony, this is an excellent question. And actually, it was something that I'm glad you called, because it was the other point that I wanted to make this morning, because Jeff and Bill asked me to kind of take a look at, hey, what's going on and how's it going? I think the biggest misstep by the prosecution was not calling Weisselberg. And they couldn't call him because of a plea agreement that they made with him in another case just before this trial started. In that plea agreement, the prosecution bound themselves and they said, we will not call you at Trump's personal trial. But Weisselberg could authenticate that handwriting on that document, right, and be walked through that, and that would be another good piece of evidence, right? So, Tony, you're 100% right. However, they've gotten that document into evidence, but the only person who said that they recognize it, right, is Michael Cohen, who said he was part of that meeting. Well, if Michael Cohen's credibility is hurt, right, how else do you get that document to have credibility? And it's through Weisselberg, especially because it's in his handwriting, but they didn't put him on the stand. So if they've said this, that somebody's looked at this and that's Weisselberg's writing, maybe not a handwriting expert, maybe, either way, you're saying it comes down to whether the jury believes that document is truly Weisselberg's writing and Cohen's writing on the right-hand side of it. If they believe it, then that's a damning piece of evidence. If they don't believe it, then it's not. So you got it, right? That piece of evidence is so critical, right? And there's two people who can authenticate it. One of them, you turned into your star witness, and then he gets eviscerated on cross. That's Michael Cohen. The other one you didn't call because of a plea agreement you made with him. And I think in retrospect, I would bet the prosecutors in the quiet of their mind say, I really wish we would not have made that plea agreement and let Weisselberg off the hook here.
One more question. So in the closing argument, I've heard this speculated that the prosecution at the end of the day is going to say, okay, let's keep in mind we're dealing with a porn star, the editor of a rag, a Playboy model, a fixer, and a guy who acts like a mob boss. So we got pretty seedy characters. So along the way, they're all going to have some blemishes, but that's the circle we're running in on this case. Is that a type of a type of line that you would see the prosecution using?
Yeah, Tony. I mean, hey, look, Tony. And by the way, I'm not trying to insult you here. You should think about becoming a lawyer, because I'll tell you, I think that is exactly a theme that you would put into a closing argument. Right? Don't try and make Michael Cohen a saint. Don't try and make any of these people whiter than the new fallen snow. Just say, hey, look, the reason there's so many shady characters in here is because shady characters are doing shady character things, and one of them is sitting over there at the defense table. I completely agree with that. I just think, like when you're in that zone as a prosecutor, because of the burden of proof, right, beyond a reasonable doubt, it just makes the defense's closing argument a lot easier. Right, which is you have to believe all these people, and how can you possibly believe some of the stuff that you've heard? You can't. Out of 12 jurors, I've heard speculation about New York juries. I think I was on a couple of weeks ago and I said I believe in the jury system. I still do. Even in New York, I think it is going to be a real tall order to get all 12 of them to say, yes, there is not a doubt in my mind that Donald Trump, that this happened and Donald Trump knew about it and that he did it to cover up another crime.
Tony, great call. Thanks so much
Yeah.
for the questions.
That was an excellent call.
We'll continue this conversation. Chris Murray, partner at First and 14th, breaking down the Manhattan Trump trial. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories that we're following. President Joe Biden says the International Criminal Court's request for an arrest warrant for Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu is, quote, outrageous. On Monday, the ICC's prosecutor announced he's seeking arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, Defense Minister, and 3 Hamas leaders in relation to alleged war crimes in Gaza. The Israeli government and Palestinian leaders strongly deny the allegations. A group of judges will evaluate the request before any arrest warrants can be issued. There's growing political pressure to remove the chairman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Greg Clugston brings us more from Washington, D.C.
FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg's job is in jeopardy following a report about the agency's toxic workplace culture and growing calls from Congress for a change in leadership. Senator Sherrod Brown, who chairs the Senate Banking Committee, became the first Democrat to call on President Biden to replace Gruenberg. Last week, a White House spokesperson said there were no personnel decisions to announce at the FDIC, which is one of several banking system regulators. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And that's what you need to know this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Getting all sorts of 90s nostalgia here. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go back to the phone lines. Frank, line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Hey, Chris, thanks so much for coming in and talking to the boys. Really appreciate your comment on this trial. It's almost like getting an inner look or a functional MRI of the legal brain.
That's right.
And I really I'm fascinated by this interaction between Costello as a witness and Marchand. It's almost like I heard Costello interviewed, and he sounded like such a good, knowledgeable, reputable, and seasoned attorney. He's like got 40 plus years in or so. And it's almost like in his own way, he was trying to, through body language, rolling of the eyes, doing whatever, communicate to Marchand that he was not impressed by the way he was conducting this trial. And I don't know if they knew each other before, like you mentioned, or what. But then Marchand reprimanded him after dismissing the court. And I heard Alan Dershowitz say that he was in earshot of this reprimand. He was interviewed by somebody else, and he was so appalled by the whole action. He said he'd never seen anything like that.
Mm. Well, man, and by the way, I'll tell you. So, I had the pleasure of getting to know Professor Dershowitz a little bit when I was at law school, and Dershowitz. I mean, the reprimand. A judge has to try and maintain control of his courtroom. But I agree with you with your sense of Costello. I don't know Costello again from Adam, right? But I did a little. I'm coming here to do this. I do a little research on the guy. I have seen a couple clips of him. He seems like a lawyer's lawyer, right? Seems like a pretty straight shooter. You're a New York lawyer. You're going to have a little bit of an edge to you. But look, I mean, lawyers are human too, and this may have been calculated. It may also be. We don't. I've sat on the witness stand as a witness one time, and when you're up there, you have to remind yourself, hey, I'm not a lawyer right now. Right now, I'm just testifying. And if something happens legally, right, that you don't like, well, over at counsel table, further away from the judge, you might be able to sort of hide a little bit of disappointment, right, if you're trying to maintain your poker face. When you're right next to him, he can see it, right? So if your eyes roll a little bit, or there's a little bit of a, like that, the judge can hear it, and it's easier to irritate him.
Take exception with it. I almost think that Cohen, being the sleazebag lawyer that he sort of is, hired this guy to give himself some credibility.
Well, and then by the way, if you're
by the way, I hire attorneys to give me credibility.
You're a wise man, Jim.
I was going to say people do that all the time, and if you're listening, clients, I don't discourage it.
Right. That's right.
The way you put your kids through college.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Frank, great call. Thanks so much for the call, and thanks for sticking around. All right, we only got about a minute. Closing arguments likely next week. Give us both sides real quick. If you're planning on the prosecution, what do you say? If you're planning the defense, what do you say?
Prosecution, there's a ton of smoke here. There's got to be a fire, right? This guy's spent his whole life getting out on technicalities and slipping through the cracks because of the way he operates. Cash payments, you have to convict him. The defense, reasonable doubt means something, and there is no way it would be unreasonable for you not to have a reasonable doubt after the testimony that you heard from the one witness who can authenticate that document that puts these payments together in the structure, Michael Cohen. He's a serial liar. He's a thief. You can't credit any of his testimony. Let this guy go.
And I think they're sitting there as a juror. If I was in that juror pool, I'd go first ever criminal trial against the president of the United States. And this is what was brought.
Right.
These are the witnesses. These are the people I'm going to hang this historic conviction on.
Well, I mean, and if I'll say this, if Trump's lawyers are feeling saucy, right, they might say, look, you guys got promised a steak dinner and you ended up at the Golden Corral.
Great way to wrap up. All right. Chris Murray, partner at First and 14th, breaking down, brilliant attorney, by the way, breaking down this Trump Manhattan case. We'll continue to have him on each week. Appreciate the time he's given us, and send guns, money, and lawyers. That's how we're
going to enjoy those hats, and thanks for the styrofoam cup of coffee.
All right. We'll continue with You Choose the News. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
great conversation with Chris Murray. If you missed it, brilliant attorney, first and 14th, Harvard Law, served on many presidential campaigns, breaking down the Manhattan trial case for us. So if you missed it, go to 710KNUS to
really
download the
appreciate that he
podcast.
spends all the time with us.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Yeah,
He's a good
it's really
dude.
nice of him.
We got him and his new law firm some hats that say
Those are
send
awesome.
lawyers guns and money.
Yeah, those are fantastic.
That's how we conservatives fight in Colorado these days. All right, let's check in on You Choose the News, Bill.
Alrighty, yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. I've scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? The people in charge have no idea where you're doing it. That and we are proudly not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. Do schedule your free in-home estimate today. They will organize the clutter in your kitchen, bath, garage. Roll'emOutShelves.com, a fantastic mother-son team. Alrighty, gentlemen, Jeff Hunt, Blake Olson from the newsroom. Here are our choices this morning. Headline number 1, 50% might need some help. Headline number 2, professional courtesy. Headline number 3, your expectations are at fault. And headline number 4, restaurant continues to struggle. Alrighty, Mr. Hunt, your choices.
Let's do the restaurant.
Yes, restaurant is continuing to struggle. McDonald's is announcing that no more freebies for you poors. They are killing the free refills. Yes, McDonald's is announcing they are phasing out their self-service soda machines by the end of 2032. Yes, now they're saying it's because they're concerned about the customer experience and the cleanliness and liars. That they just don't want to give away the free soda anymore. Now, this is a company
that cost?
I don't know, but the company's obviously struggling. Their earnings in 2023 were $14.5 billion. That was up 10%, and U.S. sales were up 4.3%, global growth 9.5%, because, of course, all of us have gotten a 10% raise in our revenue coming in. So, obviously, McDonald's, it's they're struggling. They're really struggling because of all the free soda. They only made $14.5 billion. It's tough. It is tough out there for a big, giant corporation conglomerate. It's tough. We got to have some empathy.
I mean, McDonald's is one thing. Chick-fil-A, though, they'll come over and fill it up for you, man. It's another level of service.
It really is. Alrighty, Mr. Hunt, your second choice. 50% might need more help, professional courtesy, or your expectations are at fault.
50%.
Yes, 50% might need some more help. Recently, they legalized sport betting in Massachusetts, and they had set up a gambling hotline just in case you start getting involved and you think you're having a problem gambling. Well, in the previous year, they logged just over 2,000 calls of people calling the gambling help hotline because they think they might have a problem. But the real problem is the helpline did see an increase of 121% in calls from 2022 to 2023. However, 50% of those calls were for people trying to place a bet.
No way.
Yes.
The gambling hotline.
Yes.
They thought
Yes. Over 1,000 calls to the gambling hotline of people trying to place a bet instead of getting help. So again,
tell me you've been drinking without telling me you've been drinking.
Yeah. Although I think if you need to place a bet so badly that you forget and you call the gambling help hotline, you might actually need to talk to the gambling help hotline. If you're messing up that badly, you might need some help. But yeah, I love that. And I'm sure they were very, very confused why the bets were not placed. So that's going to be a problem. Alrighty.
Hey, know, if that's a good way to just serve the people that are doing that. We'll take the bet because they're drunk enough they won't remember they made the bet.
I have no idea.
No money's lost, no money's won.
It's everybody wins. Alrighty, Blake Olson from the news department. Your choice, sir. Professional courtesy or your expectations are at fault.
Expectations.
Yes, that's going to teach you. You should not have high expectations, especially if you are in Las Vegas and visiting the Dirt Dog. The Dirt Dog is a very popular chain restaurant in Las Vegas. And recently they wanted to celebrate one of the hottest kids shows out there, Bluey. Yes, they said recently on a Facebook post, come celebrate Bluey with us. It's going to be a marathon of all the Bluey episodes. You can meet Bluey and friends. We'll have face painting, games, special Bluey treats. The event gathered 3,000 responses. On the day of the event, 3,000 parents and their little kiddos showed up and were really disappointed. Basically, the games were just the ones you can buy at Party City. They were just running the episodes of Bluey on a single TV screen. And the Bluey costume character that was there was Jim from the back room that was just wearing a onesie that you can buy at Target.
No.
In fact, his mask was so bad you could see the beard under the mask. And in the videos, kids are crying.
Dude, that is an audience
horrible.
that you don't mess with because one, when you're already raising kids that young, life is stressful.
Yes.
Two, you have psyched up your kids to a level that they probably have never been at, and the disappointment. The drop that has taken place between the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Yep.
That is a hostile audience.
Now, here's the thing. The marketing director for Dirt Dog in Las Vegas says, hey, we were only expecting 50 to 60 parents and kids there, not 3,000. So really, they were just expecting to disappoint 50 or 60 people. The fact they had to disappoint 3,000, that's the issue.
I feel
it's
like
not the disappointment. It's the number of people that showed up. That's the issue.
And if you've got 3,000 people, you've got a lot of phone calls coming in. You should adjust.
Yes, you should.
Call and bring in the bluey guy.
I still love the excuse is we weren't expecting this many people. Oh, you just want to disappoint fewer people? That's great. Well, that's it. That's an interview. Choose the news. Back to you, sir.
All right. When we come up in the 7 o'clock hour, Rich Guggenheim, Gays Against Groomers, joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
a.m. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Tuesday, May 21st. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up just after the news, Rich Guggenheim with Gays Against Groomers joins us. He's part of this effort in Colorado to lead a ballot initiative to stop men from performing in women's sports. We'll ask him all about that and what his organization is seeking to achieve. But let's check in with Blake Olson's news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. 46 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. You can expect more thunderstorms today also after Yuma in northeastern Colorado was pummeled with hail last night. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, former President Trump's defense team expected to rest its case today in the campaign derailment trial. It appears unlikely Trump will testify. Attorney Chris Murray from First and 14th Law joined Jeff and Bill again this morning and broke down all the mess.
Friday to yesterday with Michael Cohen's testimony was an unmitigated disaster for the prosecution in this case. After Cohen's testimony, you don't have to like Donald Trump. You can actually hate Donald Trump actively. If you're sitting in that jury, I don't know how you credit a thing that Michael Cohen has told you. If you don't believe Michael Cohen, you can't convict Donald Trump.
Sorry about the audio. A little crackly. We'll keep on trying here. Going to have to reboot again. A number of states holding primary elections today, including Georgia, where Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis is on the ballot.
Don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
She's somehow handling the election interference case against Trump and faces challenger Christian Y. Smith, who says he'll continue the Trump prosecution if he wins. President Biden pushing for a bipartisan border security bill in the Senate. Biden met with Speaker Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell Monday, with the White House saying, quote, he reiterated that the congressional Republicans should stop playing politics and act quickly. Most Americans know the president could lock down the border tomorrow if he wanted to.
My name's Joe Biden.
Officials at Denver's Auraria campus say all the grass on the Tivoli has to be replaced following the conclusion of the Hamas supporter campouts. It'll cost nearly $300,000 to repair. Their protests lasted more than 3 weeks, and demonstrators lived in tents throughout the quad, leaving large patches of dead grass. Cleanup crews found drug paraphernalia and human waste, prompting biohazard concerns. Aviv Rediger from the Times of Israel on with Hugh Hewitt this morning. Here's the latest on Israel getting nearly 1 million Palestinians out of Rafah so they can rid the Islamo-Nazis.
In a week and a half, we moved 1 million people. And so it is possible, and we are going into Rafah, and we can actually do quite a bit of damage to Hamas there. That's all good news. I mean, it's good news with the enormous caveat, of course, that the Palestinians there are displaced and suffering. That's how you fight Hamas. There is no other way to fight Hamas. Hamas makes sure of it.
At DU, Hamas supporters are believed to have made a fake 911 call on campus so they could distract security and trash an academic building, spray painting it and the sidewalk leading up to the building. They painted negative statements about Lockheed Martin on the ground. There's a new plan to help fill the teacher shortage across the state. Colorado had 635 positions open this school year alone, but the Department of Education hopes to correct that. It created an apprenticeship program where students can earn their bachelor's degree and teaching license at the same time. This allows them to earn hours and gain hands-on experience in the classroom. The program will launch next fall. 42 in Louisville, 43 in Castle Rock, and 46 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Temperatures reaching the 70s today with Afternoon showers and thunderstorms likely, with some showers and thunderstorms lingering through late evening and early tonight. A few could be strong. Low 70s today, mid 40s tonight. Noticeably cooler Tuesday. Highs only low 60s with showers and a few thunderstorms lingering through Tuesday night. Warming back to near 70 for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with a few late day showers and thunderstorms possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. One of the ballot initiatives we're going to see this November is public athletic programs for minors, and it's going to prevent men from performing in women's sports in K through 12 in the state of Colorado. One of the respondents pushing this effort is Rich Guggenheim. He's with Gays Against Groomers, and he joins the Jeff and Bill Show. Rich, thanks so much for being on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about what this initiative does first, and then we'll get into why you're pushing it and the organization you represent. But start off by giving us a sense of what this accomplishes.
Well, really what this does is this ensures that girls have a safe and fair place to compete. It's as simple as that.
I love the simplicity. Why do you feel like this is a problem?
I feel like this is a problem because over and over again, what we're seeing, unfortunately, are men who are competing against women in sports. And even at a very young age, I'm hearing stories and seeing it right here in Colorado, right here in Denver, where boys are being put into the girls' teams. And I don't necessarily think that this is a situation that I'm going to fault the child, but this is a parent or parents who believe that they have a non-binary, transgender, et cetera, queer child. And this is not fair to women. This is not fair to girls. And if we really want to sit down and we talk about being inclusive, we have to address the fact that men have a biological advantage. Physiologically, that's the facts. That's the science. They have that advantage against girls, and it is unfair to girls to displace them and take away spaces for girls to compete in a safe and fair manner and give it to boys.
One of the questions that I think you'll face running this ballot initiative is this a big enough problem that we need to address it through a statewide ballot initiative?
It is. And unfortunately, one of the problems that we also see is not only is it a big enough problem for girls and in K through 12, but the problem is we can't get legislation that's common sense passed through the legislature. And so this is a case where the people, the government of the people, for the people, and by the people actually have to take that by the people into their own hands and create these laws to protect girls and protect women.
Who are some of the opponents to this bill? I imagine you've already had to face them in trying to get this on the ballot itself.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, I'm sure some people may be familiar with the name Mark Gruskin. He's an attorney that is pretty well known and very powerful. Definitely, I would say punches above his weight here in Colorado. He fought it representing One Colorado and Land Illegal. Both are organizations for the LGBTQ community. They purport to represent the interests of the LGBTQ community. As a gay man myself, I will tell you that is false. They don't. I believe that their movement is actually toxic to gay and lesbian people. But the other people that are really surprising to me to see come out in opposition to this ballot initiative is Colorado PTA and Don Fritz. I believe that the Colorado PTA, a lot of people have this assumption that they have the interests of parents and students at their heart, and the reality is they are trying to subvert that. They are also the same organization that pushed the bills like 1039 and 1071 and 1017 and other pro-trans rights bills at the legislature and anti-parents rights at the legislature this last session.
Rich Guggenheim of Gays Against Groomers joining Jeff and Bill live, talking about a ballot initiative that would prevent transgendered men from competing in female sports. Looks like it would be under the age of 18 or just while they are in school, and would it include college, Rich? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
That would actually not include college.
Okay.
We had that question come up today, or when we were at the title board, and we specifically titled this under Title 22, which is K through 12. Higher education is under a different title in Colorado Revised Statute.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to clear that one up.
Great. Yep.
Also,
and thanks for asking that.
Also wanted to know, what is the opposition? You outlined who the opposition is, but what are their major arguments about wanting the transgender boys competing in elementary, middle school, and high school sports in Colorado?
Well, their major talking point is that it's about inclusion. It's about ensuring that our transgender children have a place to compete, and a place to be safe, and a place that aligns with how they identify. And the reality is, there's no such thing as a trans child. No child is born in the wrong body. This idea, and we just saw another National Institute of Health, along with the CAS report, and along with a bunch of scientific studies that have come out that show that suicide rates go up after a person medically transitions. And these people that are opposing us are going to gaslight us into believing that if we don't affirm this, and we don't want to welcome this into this community, where, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that a boy belongs on a girl's team. It's just as simple as that. These children are going to somehow commit suicide. It's gaslighting. It's emotional manipulation, and it's not backed by fact. So don't believe their lies when they tell you that.
Yeah, I have seen some studies that show that people that are transitioning, especially teenagers, there is a higher instance of suicide ideation, much stronger than other ones. And some of that has to do with acceptance. But I want to focus on the idea of inside the sports, because we do have co-ed sports. Co-ed sports do exist primarily up through middle school in some areas. And then also you do have co-ed sports that are available both as intramurals at the high school level and at the college level. So the idea that boys and girls can compete together, we can do it, but when we're bifurcating them and saying there is a women's sport and there's a men's sport, I absolutely agree that there's a problem moving the transitioning male into the female athlete. The question I've got is, what is preventing that transitioning male to female, that transgendered athlete, from competing and playing with the boys? We have examples of women playing high school sports here in Colorado. My very own high school had a female on their ice hockey team, and this is in the late 80s, early 90s. So this has been done. We have female place kickers that have played before. I have seen female soccer players play on the men's team before. What is preventing these transgendered athletes from just competing on the male side of the sports teams?
Well, and that really gets to the issue of one of the things that I talked about when we had this conversation with people who are opposing us at the title board. They made the same argument. And here's what it comes down to. If you're an all-girls team and a man comes on there who identifies as transgender female, there's a lack of informed consent. It comes down to that. And under the 14th Amendment and under Title IX, which the Biden administration has just gutted, those protections are there for a reason. And part of that goes back to, if you're playing on intramural sports and you're playing on those co-ed teams that are mixed sex, and you have males and females, both the men and the women understand the inherent risks that come with that situation. When you have a situation where it is a all-female team and a man comes in there and they're not being told this, or it's not disclosed, and you have a lack of information, and so you can't give proper consent in that situation.
That's a really good point. Talking with Rich Guggenheim with Gays Against Groomers about the ballot initiative to prevent men from competing in all women's sports, K through 12. Where is this in the process, Rich? You just got past the title board, so are you out collecting signatures now?
We are, and the title board process was very long and arduous. And the opposition was so fierce that this actually wound up going all the way to the Colorado Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court affirmed the decision of the title board to grant us title. And so now we're down to about 70 days that we have to gather our 200,000 signatures to get this on the ballot. So I've been hitting the road. I've been to 43 of Colorado's 64 counties. I am talking to people all across Colorado, and I am getting the word out. And this is all volunteer. We do not have paid circulators. And so what we really are asking for people to do is to volunteer, to circulate petitions, to sign petitions, and to help us get the word out about this stuff and encourage people to support our initiative. And you can find out more at protectkidscolorado.org.
That's protectkidscolorado.org. Now, I want to switch topics here just a bit. You have a lawsuit against some pretty big names down at the state capitol: Lorena Garcia, Mike Weissman, Leslie Herrod, Julia Gonzalez, Daphne Michelson Janae. Can you talk a little bit about this lawsuit you brought against them?
I would love to. I was there at the Capitol to testify in the Judiciary Committee on a bill 1071, which is called Tierra's Law. And Tierra's Law was named after an individual who is a drag queen, but also a is a convicted felon and a sex worker. And also the same individual, I'll just say it, I believe they are grooming children. They work with children to teach them how to perform in drag. And they have these drag shows that they do every month at a burlesque house in Colorado Springs, where children are performing sexually for adults who throw dollar bills at them. And so this lawsuit was to allow convicted felons who are transgender to change their name and their identity on their identification and not have to let the public know. And I have a problem with that, because if you're a felon and you're allowed to hide that information from the public, I believe we're taking important tools away from law enforcement and citizens to know who's in their community and who is working with children. And part of the argument against that was, oh, well, it's part of their FBI file. Well, and that's linked to their social security number. Well, none of us go around and introduce ourselves by our social security number. And if I decided I wanted to Google you and find out more about you, I can do that. But if you change your name and you decide that you're going to start identifying as Tinkerbell, and I Google Tinkerbell, something totally different is going to come up, and that is harmful to society. I also refuse to identify this individual, Dwayne Powell, by their chosen name. And I also refuse to identify this man as a woman. And that got me gavelled out and thrown out of committee. So for speaking the truth in the people's house, I was kicked out of the people's house. The legislators in this case attempted to compel my speech and censor me when I wouldn't comply. And that is a violation of my First Amendment rights, and that's why I'm suing.
And it's you and a number of other folks as well. Rocky Mountain Women's Network, Christina Goki, I believe is how you pronounce her name. What are you hoping to achieve through this?
This really isn't going to be, look, I'm not going to get wealthy off of this. I'll be honest with you. What this does is this assures that the people have the right, the constitutional right, for protecting the rights of the people, to go before our government and speak freely about issues that affect us, and ensure that our right to freedom of speech is protected and that our speech is not compelled by the government. That's all this comes down to.
Talking with Rich Guggenheim with Gays Against Groomers. I want to just help me understand, because I'm a Bible-believing evangelical social conservative, right? You might as well. I'm Colorado's Mike Pence, Rick Santorum. And I think there's a lot of people like me that look at LGBTQ plus AI and see them all together. And what Gays Against Groomers is trying to do is stop at the T, right? It's LGB, and then we're not going into T and all the other stuff. Can you explain a little bit of your worldview?
Sure. You know, what Gays Against Groomers really are, we are a group of people in the LGB, and we have T people in our community, in our organization also, because who better to speak about the harm of gender affirming care on children than the people who have lived through the experience? And so their voice, their perspective, their lived experiences are critical and so helpful in us fighting back against this radical ideology of the trans queer establishment that seeks to sexualize, indoctrinate, and medicalize children. And this isn't okay. This is absolutely wrong. When we have drag queen story time, that's indoctrinating children into this queer ideology and this gender theory. We're saying no. When we have children showing up at Pride, you're probably going to see some of our gag trucks out here at Pride events across Colorado that tell parents that there is no pride in indoctrinating, sexualizing, and medicalizing children. There is no pride in taking your child to an event that is centered and founded on sexual liberation. There's no pride in taking your child to a drag show where drag is traditionally identified as a sexual art form, sexual performance that used to be relegated to the nightlife. That's where it belongs. These books that we see in school, I'm a First Amendment purist. However, books in school should be educational and age appropriate. And these books that we're putting into children's classrooms and school libraries, if it's inappropriate for a member of the legislature to read from the well of the people's house, it is inappropriate to be in schools. And so we're fighting back against this kind of stuff. Leave the kids alone. That's all we're about, is protecting children and saying no to gender ideology being pushed on children.
I can see the medicalization aspect of it, but help me understand what you mean by the indoctrination and sexualization, especially when you're talking about the drag queen story hour. How is that turning kids trans?
Well, so first of all, let me tell you about my own personal experience. I remember the first time I saw a drag queen, and that was RuPaul. And this was years and years and years ago when RuPaul came on late at night on VH1. And I remember thinking, that looks kind of like a man. Maybe it's a woman. I don't know what it is. And I couldn't figure it out. And I remember being an adolescent and just extremely confused by this stuff. So there's that aspect of it where it starts out as confusion. Plus, some of the books that they're reading to the children during these things are really pushing an ideology of, oh, well, you can just accept this. Not all boys are blue. So it blurs a line about what gender may be. And children at that age don't even understand what that means. And so we're teaching them this stuff, and we're targeting them at the age of as young as 2 years old with this type of stuff where we're reading things to them. We're presenting this figure, this persona that is kind of ambiguous and confusing to people at that age, to children. And reality is, it's all about sexualization. Because when you come out, look, drag queens, if you want to read to a group of people, go to the nursing home and read. But you don't need to put on your big, huge fake boobs, your big, huge earrings, your big old nails, your high heels, and go read to 2 and 3-year-olds.
But again, I'm just failing to see what the harm is by having a 2 or 3-year-old being read to. I understand your experience based on you saw RuPaul and you were confused, but I failed to see the larger analogy inside there, that the simple exposure is somehow dangerous. I understand the idea of the choice of the books, and I can agree with you on there that some of them are overly sexualized, and I can agree with you that in some situations the performances are sexual. But yet again, we take kids to things like professional sporting events, and we've got women there gyrating, dancing to songs that are sometimes sexual and barely wearing any clothes. And that is considered family entertainment. So the mere exposure, I'm still having a hard time understanding the harm there. And again, I can get with you on the medical idea. But yeah, the other part, I'm having a hard time seeing how that's the danger to the kids. How if a kid sits there and sees a man that is wearing a dress, they're like, oh, that's obviously what I need to do. I think that would reaffirm something the child may already be thinking. And again, probably not thinking that at 2 or 3, nor do I think the child's going to make a choice about wearing a dress or a pair of pants at the age of 2 or 3 either at that point. I mean, getting a kid at 3 years old dressed is hard enough. I mean, have you seen 3-year-olds that are allowed to choose their own clothes? They end up in boots and a winter coat and shorts. I mean, they're not, that's not necessarily what they do.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is psychologically, some of the things that children are exposed to can cause harm. And we shouldn't be exposing to children to, and I'm just going to say it, drag is an adult art form. It has always been an adult art form. And when we start exposing them to that kind of stuff, and it's a very over the top kind of adult art form. And when we start also, drag is also stereotyping women. And I think that's the other thing that's problematic, is we're exposing them to a stereotype and a representation of something that isn't accurate and isn't healthy. And that can cause harm later on down the road psychologically.
Well,
and like you said,
getting
them to dress.
But couldn't the example that they're getting is, this is a drag queen, not this is, because again, being a drag queen's technically different than being transgendered. Many times the drag queens present themselves as male at every other situation except when they are performing or assuming that persona. And so the idea, this is someone that performs this way. I mean, you talked about RuPaul earlier, and you talked about him late at night on VH1, but we ran his TV show for over a decade in prime time. And, that's family viewing hours. And that it wasn't a sexualized show. It didn't do anything like that.
You don't think so? You don't think it was sexualized?
No, not any more than anything else.
See, I wouldn't take my kids to a Dallas cheerleaders story hour either. Put me in the camp of, can we just not do any of the sexualization stuff? I don't care if it's cheerleaders. I don't care if it's drag. But the idea that somebody wearing big fake boobs isn't sexualizing stuff? Come on.
Well, I think if you were looking at someone wearing big fake boobs and you're feeling something sexual, that's on you. That's on you if you're That's
really?
not.
Come on,
absolutely.
dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That is. Yes, absolutely.
I
Yes,
think
absolutely.
I think that's pretty universal.
If you're looking at a Barbie doll who also is a fake woman, and you're like, got to get me some of that. Again, that's something you're feeling. I don't think it's necessarily fair to express that and push that on everybody else. I don't think it's fair to look at someone and go, everyone that sees a drag queen gets turned on.
I don't think
not at all.
I'm not saying they get turned on, but to say it's not sexualized, that's where I go. Go ahead, Rich.
Bill, I would ask, would you take your child to a burlesque show, or take them to go watch, or allow them to have access to something like Playboy?
Give me a second.
Yeah, he's on. We're taking calls. We're getting a lot of calls, which is good. By the way, if you want to talk to Rich Guggenheim, give us a call, 303-696-1971.
On the burlesque, I wouldn't necessarily take it to burlesque.
Or Playboy, or have access
but again,
to Playboy.
I believe that Playboy and burlesque shows are different than what I see in some drag shows. And I've seen drag shows that do cater to a younger audience, and they are not sexualized. They don't do the particular.
Aren't you promoting confusion? I mean,
how?
Because men cannot become women. And so
we talked about this before. Biologically, gender is a social construct. We've talked about this before.
No, it's not.
Men, yes, it has. And men have performed as women for a long portion of time. It's not that unusual.
But it was as a joke. It was kind of almost like as a form of comedy.
No, not back in theater days.
Yeah, like Mrs. Doubtfire and stuff like that. That's not because they actually believe that they're a woman.
When William Shakespeare wrote his plays, we had men on stage pretending to be women. Nobody turned around and said, "Oh my God, they're sexualizing the young kids."
But they're not.
Nobody
they're
said
not.
that.
Well, one, I don't think Shakespeare's wearing big old fake boobs. But secondly, there's not a worldview attached to it that men can become women, and we're pushing that upon kids. Rich, I'll let you respond.
Well, first of all, Bill, I want you to know and see if you understand what the history and the purpose of drag was before it became a mainstream art form.
Yeah, I understand the sexualization, the burlesque side of it, but again, when it's a mainstream,
why? What was the purpose of drag? So back during the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, what was the purpose?
I don't know. I didn't research it this morning. I can't pull that out of my brain.
Okay, so the purpose of drag back then, there were drag families, drag moms, and these drag communities, these drag houses with these drag moms would perform for the gay nightlife, specifically among homosexual men, right? That was the thing. The other piece of that during the AIDS crisis, these drag families and these houses would get together and have these drag shows to raise money for victims of AIDS and HIV. So we have taken away the purpose of drag, which was to raise money for the community to help fight for causes within the community, and we've commercialized it. And then the other thing that has been really inappropriate, in my opinion, is the appropriation of drag by straight white people who bring their children. Now, you might see it differently, but I would ask, would you appropriate something that maybe part of the Hispanic community, Asian culture, or even Black culture the same way that white people have appropriated gay culture?
I would refer you to Cinco de Mayo in Denver and how it is celebrated. No, I'm just saying, but I'm saying that the cultures, especially in America, that cross, there is a lot of appropriation. There is a lot of it, especially through our fashion, through our music, a whole series of it. And we can talk
Do you
about.
Get to call yourself?
What?
Do you get to call yourself a ally of the Hispanic community simply because you drink a margarita and do the Mexican hat dance on Cinco de Mayo?
No, don't think so.
Okay, so then it's the same thing for the people who come to a gay bar or a restaurant with their children in tow and say, I'm an ally of the gay community and I'm here to support you guys, when all you're doing is throwing money at a drag performer. And quite frankly, when there are a large number of people who say that this is inappropriate, who do you think gets the blowback from that? We just talked about how everybody likes to lump the LGBTIQA+ all together, and there's a distinct difference between LG and B, which is sexual orientation, and the TIQ-ETC, which is gender ideology. And so unfortunately, what happens when people start appropriating this stuff and taking their kids to these events, the blowback comes to all of us, and now gays, lesbians, and bisexuals who fought for decades against this ideology and this perception that we are a bunch of pedophiles. And as a result of what's happening now, our rights and the support for our rights are in decline.
Rich, we're talking with Rich Guggenheim with Gays Against Groomers. Do you have the ability to stick around through a commercial break? We've got absolutely full phone lines, and I think they'd like to ask some questions. Do you have that ability?
I do.
All right. I appreciate it. We'll continue with Rich Guggenheim, Gays Against Groomers. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories that we're following. After almost 2 months, the cargo ship that crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore has been moved. Engineers refloated the vessel named the Dali before tugboats pulled it upriver. The successful operation means the Port of Baltimore can now partially reopen. 6 construction workers were killed when the ship smashed into the bridge earlier this year, causing it to collapse into the river. California's Supreme Court will hear arguments today on whether drivers in the so-called gig economy can continue to be classed as independent contractors. The outcome of this case could have major implications for ride-hailing services like Uber. Ira Spitzer reports from San Francisco.
Labor groups have challenged a law passed by California voters in a referendum 4 years ago that was sponsored by the ride-hailing firms Uber and Lyft, saying that the law violates constitutional protections for workers. Ride-hailing firms and food delivery platforms almost always classify their drivers as independent contractors, which allows them to spend significantly less than if those drivers were considered employees, entitled to benefits such as workers' compensation if they are injured on the job.
And that's what you need to know this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us is Rich Guggenheim. He's with Gays Against Groomers, and they have a new ballot initiative that they're leading here in the state of Colorado to stop men from performing in women's sports K through 12. So I guess it would be kind of boys competing against girls sports. You've all seen these videos where the dude just like flies down the track and beats all the girls. They're trying to stop that K through 12 sports. Now, this wouldn't be intramural sports where you have men and women that willingly join the co-ed teams. This has to do with trans women competing. So that'd be men competing in women's sports. Got absolutely jam-packed phone lines, and Rich is going to join us to take some questions. Start with Dean in Denver. Dean, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Dean.
I guess the thing that's so appalling is the idea that 2-year-olds get exposed to transgenderism in any form, shape. It's just abhorrent.
I agree with you, because from my perspective, it's seeding confusion. You're not able to change your gender or your sex. They're tied to biology. That's my perspective.
No, sex is biological,
but Bill disagrees with that.
Gender is a social construct.
I know Bill disagrees.
But Dean, what's the harm?
There's a fool in every bunch.
Tell me what the harm is, Dean. Rather than calling me names, what's the harm?
What's the harm?
Yep, you said there was harm. What's the harm?
Why don't we teach them arithmetic and reading and writing? Okay,
that's not the answer, sir. It's a bunch of words together, but you answer my question. What's the harm? Exactly.
Rich, do you want to respond? Rich Guggenheim?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to say this. If gender is a social construct, why are we having conversations about gender pay gap?
It's a good question. We shouldn't. But gender is a social construct. That doesn't prove it's not.
Well, okay, gender might be a social construct. I'm not going to disagree with that, because I believe that sex is based in biology and gender is not based in biology.
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
I disagree.
When we start teaching this gender ideology, and when we start allowing children to socially transition, we know from science that 97.5% of those children will go on to medically transition. So we start exposing them to this ideology. We start confusing them about what your social construct is, and then we start imposing these things onto them, and then they buy into it, because it is a social contagion. And when 97.5% of children who are allowed to socially transition, medically transition, what we are doing to those children is we are putting them down a path of irreversible medical harm that leads them to mutilation and sterilization. And that is unacceptable.
Yep, I agree. Rich, let's go to Derek, line 2, Golden. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning. Hi, guys. This is a very fascinating conversation. And here I have the answer to Bill's, why is it a problem? I am personally, the problem with the hypersexualization is you're taking a small piece of what somebody is, the smallest piece. Somebody's sexuality isn't what makes a person who they are. What makes a person who they are is if they ride dirt bikes, if they do skateboards, if they bake pies, if they like sewing. And going to this gender ideology where your sexuality is the most important thing that somebody could have to deal with is the most absurd thing. And the confusion is awful. It's awful for children. And instead of just telling children, what makes you little child of mine is the fact that I love you and you like football, or I love you and you like soccer. It's having the sexuality be the most important thing is the most dangerous thing. And that is not what makes up a person.
Well, I would submit, Derek, that the people that are arguing against transgendered and against seeing them in society and against using the pronouns are doing exactly what you're saying. That what they're doing is they're making the sex of that person, the gender of that person, the most important thing. In fact, it is so important, they are going to refuse to identify that individual by their chosen pronouns or their chosen name. It is that big of a deal, where if we wanted to get to where you are and not make it a big deal, we would accept someone that is an adult and transgendered as who they are, not getting mad about which bathroom they use, not getting mad about which name I call them. If we really wanted to make it so it's not the first thing.
Right now, this is why I'm pushing back against that. And a lot of people will say, well, Rich, what about adults being able to do whatever adults want to do? That's fine. You go ahead, you live your life, do whatever you want to do, but you are not going to compel my speech. You are not going to rewrite the entire history of society that is based on the scientific fact that there are only two sexes, and you do not have the right to invade women's spaces. I don't know how you've ever dealt with that. Maybe you've never had to deal with the fact that as a gay biological man or a straight white biological man who's never been in a space where you've had to undress in front of women who pose as a man, or never experienced what it's like as a woman to have to change in front of men. Maybe you've never had that where your space has been invaded like that. Maybe you've never had the fear of being a woman and wondering what it's like to have a man lurking. And I'm going to be absolutely clear. A lot of these people that identify as transgender are AGP, autogynephilias. They are sexually aroused by being around women and presenting as a woman. They are predators. And we have an obligation, and I'm sorry that you disagree with this because I think it's abhorrent. We have an obligation to protect the women from these predators masquerading as women. Women fought for decades for the right to own property, for the right to vote, for the right to hold public office. And for you to turn around and denigrate women and say that gender is a social construct and that a dude who wants to pretend that he's a woman can just turn around and say he's a woman and take away these opportunities and these rights from women is disgusting.
Yeah, but so is your language there, talking about the fact that he's pretending, and you're denigrating them based on saying it's not true to them. And I have seen nothing. Hang on, Rich. I've seen nothing as far as in the science that shows that the transgender community is as predatory as you say it is. We don't have anything that shows them committing those type of predatory actions.
I have a whole website,
and the other part,
people who are interested can go to radar.gaysagainstgroomers.com. We have an entire website that shows this kind of stuff, and it is all backed by fact. And the reality is, if you're going to sit there and you're going to allow these men to appropriate womanhood and women's spaces, that just allows the listeners and the viewers to see how misogynistic you are.
But that's how am I misogynistic? Again, you have jumped to some conclusions that I did not have in any of my thesis statements. I did not say that a transgender person should be using a locker room with a biological female. I'm okay with the women drawing the boundaries there, but you assumed something I never said. You have been hanging a jacket on me that is not fair. I'm talking about gender being a social construct. You've admitted this, and I understand that you don't want the state to compel you to use the proper pronoun of a person. You filed a lawsuit against that. For me, I don't think there's any harm. I don't understand what the harm is for you to refer to another adult based on their chosen pronoun. I understand the person that you're upset about is a convict, and I do not support them being able to wipe away their previous convictions based on gender transition. No, that should follow them. I agree with you on that. But I don't see any reason that someone cannot use the chosen pronoun.
It goes back to the importance of language. And when we start erasing language and changing language, then if we're going to start saying that a man can be a woman and a man can identify as a woman and we should just use their chosen pronouns, then we start down this path that we already see happening in Colorado, where all of a sudden things are no longer based on sex. Laws that were written based on sex to give sex-based rights are no longer there.
But if you talk about changing language, we can go back through hundreds and hundreds of years, and we can look at the European languages, and European languages have articles. They give gender to inanimate objects. Gender is a social construct, and it's been consistent in language. Don't talk about changing language, and language changes and evolves. You know that. And again, European languages have genders. You can have a male table. You can have a female chair. Those are inanimate objects. It is a social construct not based on biology. That's it.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to erase sex and biology and replace it with that social construct so that now you can have a they-them table and a they-them chair or a non-binary chair that maybe changes its gender ideology based on the season. And that is where we really have a problem, because what that does is that erases women.
We can talk about people that change gender and are gender fluid back and forth. That's different than the idea of someone that is presenting. That's okay. We need to get to some more phone calls.
We'll do one more call here. Melissa Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. This is something that I'm not against drag queens at all. I actually love RuPaul's Drag Race, but I would take my kids to a bikini barista. But I'm wondering how the whole, this isn't a little bit like blackface for women, because I have a O'Hara dress. I'm a Trekkie. I cannot dress up in that dress, but yet a colored person could dress up like me and do a whole show.
Rich, I've heard the argument before too that when men dress up like women, how is it any different than blackface? Any thoughts on that?
I don't think it is any different. I think it is a cultural appropriation. I think it is appropriation. I think it is misogynistic. I think it is disrespectful to women to do that. However, I will also say that as an adult, I have no problem with adult drag shows. My line that I draw, and I will support the adult drag show industry. However, I draw the line when you bring children to those things.
Rich Guggenheim, Gays Against Groomers. He's part of Protect Kids Colorado in the effort to keep boys out of girls' sports. If you want to join their effort, this is an effort that, kind of crosses some interesting political lines. And it's an effort to get this on the ballot this November. It also includes parental notification of gender incongruence. So the schools cannot keep this from parents. And we've had Protect Kids Colorado on this show before. But if you want to join their effort, and they do not have paid volunteers, if you would like to see this on the ballot, support their effort, go to protectkidscolorado.org. protectkidscolorado.org. Rich Guggenheim, I really appreciate you taking the time and having a good conversation on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you so much, Rich. I appreciate the time so much. And I agree with you. I support the measure. Even though we had some disagreements on the air about the finer points of some other things, I think that what you're doing is absolutely noble, and I absolutely support it 110%. I think you're right about keeping the transgendered males out of female sports and some other things there. So thank you for your efforts.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for the conversation, guys. It's been fun.
Friends, we'll continue when we return. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines here. Jane, Colorado. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
It's Janet.
Oh, Janet, thank you.
To answer Bill's question about what's the harm, going back several calls ago, the harm is just exposing children. I'm thinking of the drag queen reading hour with little kids.
Yeah, and what's going to happen? What's the negative impact?
Exposing them to it.
No, but negative impact. What's the negative impact? You're assuming a negative. I'm asking you to enunciate that. You're saying just by them seeing it, something negative is going to happen. What is that negative thing?
Would you have your little kids watch rated R movies?
I do not equate a drag queen reading a book to a rated R movie. I don't think those are analogous.
I do.
I equate it to a rated X movie.
Well, I think they're different, but based on presentation and sexuality. And I don't equate it to a rated R movie.
Exposure. Kids are going to be exposed to plenty of crap without you taking them to a.
But wait, so if we had a movie that would be rated PG, but we put a drag queen in there reading a book, you now say that's an R-rated movie.
I'm just saying the harm is the exposure.
No, but I'm asking about
exposing little children to that.
Yeah, but you can't show me show me the result of the harm. You can't show me. You can say the exposure, but you can't show me that the result of the exposure does anything negative. That's the problem I'm having here. But
Janet, appreciate the call. The exposure is the idea they can change their gender.
But
they
is that a harm?
Yes, it is. And we'll continue this conversation. Give us a call. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on this Tuesday, May 21st, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy. And that perspective depends on where you stand. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get that coffee brewing, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We'll continue with your calls in just a second. If you'd like, give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. A ton of text messages and calls today. Just in the last hour, we hosted Rich Guggenheim with Gays Against Groomers. He's leading this effort to stop K through 12 boys from participating in all-girls sports. They got a ballot initiative running this fall. So we'll get to your calls and texts in just a second. By the way, Bill, I'm now at a point running this show where I leave messages for like repair guys.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a call. Jeff Hunt here. 303-696-1971.
I did that too. I left the wrong thing.
I did that the other day.
I had to call one of my kids out for class and left the phone number for here too.
This is responding to Jeff's plumbing request. All right. Yes. We'll get to Brian and Jacqueline in just a second. We do have one line open, so give us a call. But let's check in on Blake Olson's news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. Beautiful morning and a great show. 47 and mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. Expect more thunderstorms this afternoon after Yuma in northeastern Colorado was pummeled with hail last night. Schools closed there today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: officials at Denver's Auraria campus say that all the grass at the Tivoli has to be replaced following the conclusion of the Hamas supporter festival. It cost nearly $300,000 to repair. Their protests lasted more than 3 weeks as demonstrators lived in tents, leaving large patches of dead grass. Cleanup crews found drug paraphernalia and human waste. And here's Deborah Ashby.
There's several burn spots where a lot of the structure sat for the 3.5 weeks, and we'll have to do an assessment as far as cleanliness on the quad.
DU also experiencing the same type of challenges from Hamas supporters on their campus. For educational purposes, these students and paid supporters should follow Haviv Rediger from the Times of Israel, who told Hugh Hewitt this morning Israel is getting nearly 1 million Palestinians out of Rafah so they can exterminate the Islamo-Nazis.
In a week and a half, we moved 1 million people. And so it is possible, and we are going into Rafah, and we can actually do quite a bit of damage to Hamas there. That's all good news. I mean, it's good news with the enormous caveat, of course, that the Palestinians there are displaced and suffering. That's how you fight Hamas. There is no other way to fight Hamas. Hamas makes sure of it.
Former President Trump's defense team expected to rest its case today in the campaign derailment trial in New York. Attorney Chris Murray from First and 14th Law joined Jeff and Bill this morning and broke it all down.
Friday to yesterday, with Michael Cohen's testimony, was an unmitigated disaster for the prosecution in this case. After Cohen's testimony, you don't have to like Donald Trump. You can actually hate Donald Trump actively. If you're sitting in that jury, I don't know how you credit a thing that Michael Cohen has told you. If you don't believe Michael Cohen, you can't convict Donald Trump.
A number of states holding primary elections today, including California and Georgia, where Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis is on the ballot.
Don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
She's handling the election interference case against Trump and faces challenger Christian Wise Smith, who says that he'll continue the Trump prosecution if he wins. So that would be Christian, not Wise Smith. President Biden pushing for a bipartisan border security bill in the Senate. Biden met with Speaker Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell on Monday, with the White House saying that he reiterated that the congressional Republicans should stop playing politics and act quickly. Most Americans know the president could lock down the border tomorrow if he wanted to.
My name's Joe Biden, and I'm
Rooting for this guy right here, Rich Guggenheim from Gays Against Groomers, working hard to prevent boys and men from competing against girls and women in women's sports here in Colorado. On the show last hour, he needs your help on a new ballot initiative.
I have been to 43 of Colorado's 64 counties. I am talking to people all across Colorado, and I am getting the word out. And this is all volunteer. We do not have paid circulators. And so what we really are asking for people to do is to volunteer, to circulate petitions, to sign petitions, and to help us get the word out about this stuff and encourage people to support our initiative. And you can find out more at protectkidscolorado.org.
Once again, protectkidscolorado.org. 44 in Arvada, 45 in Parker, and 47 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on this Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Great conversation with Rich Guggenheim in the last hour, and it's spilling over into this hour, so we'll continue the nature of transgenderism. Lots of text messages here. And when you do text us, just let us know your first name and where you're from. That helps us out. God created male and female. This is from 5634. Sodom and Gomorrah existed in early creation, and God destroyed it. I don't think God changes his mind. I worked with a nurse whose father did the transitions in Trinidad. He had so many men come back saying, I wish I had never done this, that he stopped doing them. This is deviance from God's creation. You're free to participate if you choose, but God made his mind up a long time ago. Joan from Lakewood. Jeff, ask Bill why he thinks it's not harmful. Why is it positive to take your child to a drag show? And I really believe doing this at a public library with taxpayer money is wrong.
Well,
thoughts on that?
Things is it's someone that is sitting there and they're dressed up as they choose to be. I don't find it necessarily harmful or offensive, and they're reading stories to kids. Seems beneficial at that point. Again, if we talk about choice of story, I can concede that choice of story can be an issue. And I do also say that some of the drag queens in these drag queen story hours particularly pick books that I would find inappropriate because it seems more getting across the message about transgenderism rather than just read the story. Read Green Eggs and Ham. Read Shel Silverstein. Do things like that. If you really want to make this accepted, don't wrap it into something else that you're talking about society. It doesn't need to be a preach session in front of kids. So if we talk about choice of book, and so if the choice of book is just neutral, I don't see the direct harm. And what I'm looking at from someone is just to elaborate what happens to the kid. What is the direct harm that happens to the child because they see this? I don't see it. I don't get it.
Let's go to Doug's text message here. Sorry, guys, you're one of the best, but on this one, I have to disagree with you. The individual may have transitioned, but biologically, they're still female. It's not a question of gender. Now, I may call the individual sir out of respect and decency or because I'd like to be civil, but in the end, it doesn't change the fact that the body is still female.
Yeah,
Doug.
But again, we agree. Biological sex, yes, but gender is a social construct, and we can even see that in language. So yes.
This is from Beth. The dude who joined a sorority in Wyoming was watching the women shower and was getting excited about it, was obsessed with their periods. He was a pervert who penetrated their safe space, pun intended.
And again, I can see that individuals could use this in things like that. And again, I would never say that a biological female should have to change in a locker room or shower or get undressed in any way, shape, and form in front of a transgender female without consent. That is an individual choice. And what's interesting about this is I understand the people about, oh my gosh, we can't have the transgender in the locker room. We can't have them in the showers. We don't want them in the bathroom. The core of that comes back to the biological male. If you ask all those people, they would object also to having a biological male in there. It has a lot less to do with the transgender and has a whole heck of a lot more to do with the biology.
We'll get to the phone lines here in just a second. Look, there's a lot to consider when it comes to higher education. The college experience can either build a student's faith up with knowledge and understanding or tear it down. At Colorado Christian University, they aim to strengthen their students' Christian faith, because they believe that everything depends on it. CCU's academic and student development programs cultivate a deep and enduring faith that affirms the authority of Scripture and embraces Christ as the authentic center of life. What does this look like week to week at CCU? Well, all students are placed in a discipleship group freshman year. Their campus ministries department creates space for spiritual formation through weekly chapels, service opportunities, and international missions. And every student graduates with an emphasis in biblical studies, taught by expert faculty in their field, Old and New Testament, theology, and church history. At CCU, they consider faith the most important thing a student can take with them in their future career. To learn more and apply, go to ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. All right, Brian, Colorado, you're up. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
And another good topic. And, I think most people are in the middle on these polarizing subjects, and they either lean right or lean left. I think with most topics, it's that way. But it's the polarization of each side that gets the loudest voices. And we've gone from, homosexuality was not accepted in society. It is now, and that's the way it is. But changing your, trying to be a boy or a girl, it's a little hard for people to swallow. And again, it's a belief. You know what I mean? And these are the same people that don't want us to push Christianity on them because that's a belief. Well, believing you're a girl, if you're a boy, that's a belief. Why should I have to be forced to believe that? That's the same thing as me trying to force you to believe in a religion. It's a belief system for you. Great. I don't need to be forced. And now the schools are forcing teachers to use people's preferred pronouns.
Yep.
That's like forcing them to do
actual
religion.
Law. That's an actual law now in Colorado. Could you imagine being a middle school boy and then forcing your substitute teachers to call you whatever gender that you pick that day, and then getting punished if the teacher doesn't do that?
The assumption is they're changing gender daily in your example there. And that would be hang on a second, that would be considered based on interpretation law out of bounds. Because if you walk in and say, hey, you had the gender on Monday, this gender Tuesday, this gender Wednesday, you're obviously trying to use this in a way to get the teacher in trouble.
Yeah,
so
and it's great that we're going to send our substitute teachers to defend that in court. I'm glad that it'll come out when it gets to court.
It won't get there.
But it's forced belief, and that's not what we're all about. We're not about forced belief.
What do you mean forced belief, Brian? I don't know. Help me understand that forced
people
belief.
To believe what you believe.
No, not at all. Not in the least.
Well, that's what this pronoun thing is. It's forcing Brian, to believe what you believe.
No, it's basically asking you to just have the simple respect to refer to another person how they want to. Yes, it is.
It's compelled speech by law.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You can, and again, you can just like our last guest, Mr. Guggenheim, he referred to the wrong gender and was gavelled down.
Yes.
He wasn't arrested for it. He wasn't charged with a crime for it.
Billy,
he wasn't charged for it.
You can ask me to respect your belief, but at the end of the day, it's up to me. I don't have to. Just like you don't have to respect my beliefs.
Yeah, I understand that, Brian.
I can ask you all I want.
Exactly.
But if you don't, you don't. And I shouldn't be compelled to do any, and you shouldn't be compelled.
If someone is transgendered and they're presenting as the opposite of their biological sex, what harm does it do to you to just use that word? What is the deep sin that has occurred inside of you? What's the schism inside of your soul?
It's not true.
Yes,
It's not
is.
even that.
Yes,
No,
it
it's
is
not.
gender.
It's
Yes,
not true.
the gender.
It's nothing
Yes,
that
it is.
curls up
The
in my
presenting as
soul. It's a
female.
belief. It's a belief system I don't believe in. You're compelling me to believe something I don't believe.
Okay,
I'm not going to do it.
okay.
And that's against what we are as Americans. It's against what we are in society.
Okay.
And same with Christianity. I'm not going to compel you. We've taken that out of the school.
No, we haven't.
Of compelling people.
Nope. No, we have, Brian.
Well,
we have a state that's just mandating putting the 10 Commandments in every classroom, K through 12. I know
That's a good
but hang on a
state.
sec. But you're talking about compelling people based
Yeah,
on beliefs.
I do like to compel people.
I know,
Brian
but
doesn't,
that's a compelling.
but I
That's
do.
compelling based on certain beliefs, Brian. That's holding up a certain set of belief systems
Yeah, but
inside
you
of the
have
school
to-
system, and we have a state legislature that
But
approves
that's
that.
as much a part of history as anything else.
But Bill,
So we're
if you
transgendered
find that,
people,
if
Brian.
you
So we're
find that
transgender
offensive,
people.
why don't you
Since
find
when,
this
Bill?
law?
No, I'm not saying.
offensive?
Hang on a sec. I'm not saying it's offensive. We're talking about indoctrination and belief systems and how we're holding up a belief system. And Brian was saying you shouldn't force me to have and honor your belief system. Yet we're putting the 10 Commandments, a certain religious belief system, inside of a school.
Right. And one's true and one's not.
And maybe I'm not, and but that's more of a history thing. When did gender become a social construct?
It pretty much has been. I mean, you can even, and again,
When?
Okay, hang on a sec. I can even go back to, and it's languages. Look at many of the European languages. They have articles that are inside the language. They've been there for hundreds of years. Spanish, Italy,
Yeah, but
German.
they didn't believe you could
refer,
change your
hang on
gender.
a sec. Wait, hang on a sec. But they refer to inanimate objects as gendered. That's a social construct. That's all I'm saying is that gender is a social construct. The language itself proves it. Because you can have a male table in German, you can have a female chair in Spanish and Italian.
Yeah, but
many languages have that. You wouldn't have if gender was not a social construct, you wouldn't have an article that would be male, female, or even neutral.
It's not just the idea that gender is a social construct. It's the idea you
Those
can
are related
change
to
it.
objects,
All right.
not people.
Brian, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. We got a ton of calls here, so we're going to get through them. Brian's line is open, 303-696-1971. We'll get to Jacqueline, then Shumay. I want to talk to you all briefly about American financing. In today's economic climate, many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses. It's brutal out there. Bidenomics and high credit card interest rates can trap you in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month to month. Paying only the minimum each month means it could take years to become debt-free. Reach out to American Financing, a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. If you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers save, listen to this, $854 a month, equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. The process is straightforward and quick. You can close your loan in as little as 10 days by acting today. You might not even have to pay your next mortgage payment. It costs nothing to see how much you can save. This opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore. Give American Financing a call today, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000, AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, consumeraccess.org. Let's go to Jacqueline, Nebraska. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I'm eating a buttermilk biscuit.
Jacqueline always texts us what she's eating for breakfast. And it's brutal because I get a bar at 4:45 in the morning. Go ahead.
Okay. Don't lose sight here. Your callers are all right. We're talking about children. We're talking about small children and minds that are not developed yet, minds that are like a sponge. They'll absorb a lot of things. Some things good, some things bad. But you wouldn't take and open a bottle of whiskey in the middle of the living room floor and let your 3 or 4 year old go. Take the cap off and leave it there. You wouldn't do that. You have to think long term throughout their life. You don't do that with a child. When my daughter was 7, she thought she was Wonder Woman. She strapped on a towel and was going to jump off the deck. I had to stop her. We ended up in the emergency room. There's certain things that you do as an adult and you protect the young. And that's what this is about. They're too young for bumping and grinding and watching dirty old men. I find it personally very offensive myself.
Well, I mean, based on that statement, Jacqueline, shouldn't then we ban all cartoons, especially all the Marvels? Because your child was obviously indoctrinated and felt that she was Wonder Woman. And so that's obviously a harm because she actually tried to hurt herself. I mean, isn't that the
Well,
same
you know,
thing that the
that's-
exposure to that superhero and that story indoctrinated her, just like the exposure to the drag queen is supposed to indoctrinate the child?
That's what I'm saying. I think it is wrong. I had to intervene there. She had to know that she wasn't Wonder Woman. Children have to know that they cannot fly. Little boys have to know they don't menstruate. Little girls have to know they don't have a penis. You know, if you were going to take your dog out and have your dog bred, say you have a female dog and you've got small children around, do you let your children watch that? And then what if your child, your little boy, goes over and tries humping the dog? There's certain things that are wrong and there's certain things that are right. And when you have a
question,
small
Jacqueline.
child like that,
Who's
know.
who's responsible for telling that small child those things?
The parents.
There we go.
Exactly
And
right.
some
Not the
parents can make different choices, right?
I know they can.
Okay.
And some people's children grow up to be a mess. And I'll agree there.
We have a role as
And
a society to guide to.
Yeah, we do,
There
but
are.
at
You
the
don't
core,
let
it is the parent's choice.
Come on, Hillary Clinton, it takes a village.
No, but at the core, it is the parent's choice. You wouldn't want the state. You don't want it. Again, we don't want the state mandating when our children are taught sex education, how they're being taught. We have people pushing back about that.
Yeah.
So the idea that the state
I was the one.
or any sort
Charter
of a government
schools
entity.
don't have to do that because of the work
know,
we did
but
at the
the issue-
Centennial
but that's what
Institute.
I'm
They
pointing
wanted to
out.
force that upon
Yeah,
everybody.
But
Jacqueline,
that's what I'm pointing out with Jacqueline. I think she's great, and thanks so much for the phone call,
Jacqueline is always
I
great. She
appreciate
just
it, 'cause
tempts
again,
us with
parents' choice.
She
Yes.
breaks all these beautiful breakfast.
Oh,
then
yeah, she does.
texts
It's
us.
not
So
fair.
it's just- all right, let's go. We're going to go to Shumay in just a second. I want to talk to you about the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join today. All right, let's go to Shumay. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Shumay.
Good morning. Hi. So I had a thought process on this that I haven't heard covered at all. But there was a book by Jonathan Cahn. It's called Return of the Gods. And he goes over ancient, like lowercase g gods from like the beginning of time kind of a thing, like with Mesopotamia and like Epic of Gilgamesh kind of stuff. And there's a goddess called, her name is Ashtar. And these ancient inscriptions like say have it where she says, I am woman, I am man. And what she does is she seeks to defeminize women and masculate women and feminize men. And so she's kind of the transgender goddess. And she had a priesthood of men in her temples and all of these kinds of things that dressed as women. And it really blurred the lines of male and female. They were, her priests, they were surgically altered. So this affected hormones, which would effeminate men. And they would dance in front of and have parades. They would literally have parades in the streets, these effeminate men. And they would hold scalpels and flail them in the air to like point to the like removal of their, genitalia in worship to this transgender god. And what these priestesses would do, they would have they would literally do like teachings to the young kids in that community, and people would bring their kids to this pagan worship, and that was a part of their worship, indoctrinating children, because then that would continue on that pagan worship. And so what we're seeing right now.
What was the name of the god again?
Ashtar. Ishtar. It's you have Baal, you have Ishtar, and you have Molech. Those were like the three main gods of ancient times.
Bad Dustin Hoffman
and
movie.
like, yeah, and the Baal was like, you hear about these gods and the Israelites, like, not removing them from when they would take over lands, and then the Israelites would kind of bring in some of these worships with their worship of Yahweh. And so this is like this is true as true can be for what we're seeing. And so it is a spiritual aspect to this. And it's not just harmless. What you're doing is opening up children to a spiritual system that can just take them captive. And I just think, like, beyond just looking at it just at the surface of it just being, oh, a guy dressed as a female reading books to, like, kids, like, there's a spiritual aspect to this. Like, God created man and woman, and this is in direct opposition to what God intended.
It seems to correlate too with just a society that continues to reject Christianity.
Exactly. And what was awesome about this is that the gospel actually stopped a lot of the movement of this pagan belief. And it stopped it, and it really removed a lot of this kind of pagan worship until recently. We've moved away from God. We've moved away from the gospel. And here we have this, like, insurgent of, like, this kind of pagan worship again, rearing its ugly face.
Yeah, there's the
and so
critique.
I'm actually...
Well, there's the critique in our culture that you don't move to a place of no gods, you move to a place of a lot of gods. I'll let you finish, Shumay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I'm a petition holder too. I'm one of the volunteers that has a petition, and I believe wholly in what removing these women or men from women's sports, and having parents be in the know of what's going on in schools with gender confusion or transing or any of that stuff. So
again, the website protectkidscolorado.org. We hosted Rich Guggenheim of Gays Against Groomers in the previous hour, and it's the conversation has been spicy, and I appreciate Shumay you giving us a call. Thanks so much. Shumay's line will be open 303-696-1971. Again, if you want to be a part of their movement, protectkidscolorado.org. We'll get to Jay in just a second. I want to talk to you about Empower Home. We've hosted Gay Ribble here in the studio before. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, there's 3 reasons why I absolutely adore Gay Ribble. One, she's just a very kind person, and selling your home is one of the most stressful things you're doing. You're going to want that calming presence. You're going to want a kind person. You're going to want somebody that's easily accessible to be able to help you through that stressful process. Number 2, she's with us on values. She loves her family. She loves her faith. She gives back to this community. In fact, she donates to orphans in the state of Colorado because she was an orphan herself. She was adopted by a great family, raised by them. She wants to help other kids find their forever home. So you're supporting values. And then number 3 is she is a powerhouse. We all have friends and family members who are real estate agents, but in this case, Gay Ribble gets her clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000 in the sale of your home? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive data is filled with over 14,000 pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Let's go to Jay in Denver. Jay, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jay.
Morning.
Good morning. Great subject. Well, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my history. We were, I was a lifeguard at the YMCA, and then later on became a beach guard at Huntington Newport Beach. Most of our training in the YMCA, we had 3 Olympic pools, was, teach kids how to swim and all that, keep them from drowning. But we had problems with, guys coming in and wanting to see the kids swim, older men. And in our books, I use the term pervert in our books, was to keep these guys out of the YMCA and the men's restrooms. And also we would finally, my director at the Y disallowed masks because they would go in the bottom of the pool and watch these kids, because you can see so well, swimming. Just horrible, horrible stuff. And that's just one example. And the example and the parallel of what you're talking about earlier is these people can't help themselves. We're all addicted to certain things. And I'm assuming everybody, you two on this call are over 50 years old. Well, I never thought about Wonder Woman, but recently a friend of mine sent a kind of sexy video of Wonder Woman over on text. And, I just realized as an over 50 person, she's a really, really beautiful person. Absolutely gorgeous. And as a kid, I really didn't look at that or care about it. But for someone that is so inclined, like these men dressed up like women, they shouldn't be around our children at all, ever. And I love what the two females called in about earlier, because they can't help themselves anymore than say you or I can't help eating that second piece of cake. They just can't stop themselves.
Now, Jay, I understand the idea you're talking about them being addicted and the molestation attacks.
Right.
The people that we see molesting both children and attacking women, are they predominantly gay? Are they heterosexual, or are they even transgendered? Who are the people?
I think it's all above. Actually, I know
they
can't help themselves.
No, it's heterosexuals. It is heterosexuals, especially when you're talking. That is the numbers. The vast majority of people that are charged with and convicted of child molestation are heterosexual. That is it.
Really?
And so the idea, and this is the danger in the conversation, is that because we see something that we don't understand and maybe even don't like in transgenderism, we now assume they're all predators. We now give them this blanket jacket of, you guys are all, and that's part of the issue that I had with Rich Guggenheim here talking about Gays Against Groomers. His assumption in that statement is that the transgenders are groomers. And again, if you go through the list, that you look at the number of people that are molested at a drag show by a drag queen at Drag Queen Story Hour, so far the number is 0. But I can go through a long list of cultural institutions where we have molesters inside, buried very, very deeply. In fact, some institutions actually covered them up and moved them around so they could have more victims. So, but again, the molestation, the attack, the thing that you're most mad about, predominantly is heterosexuals. That's where it most happens. Predominantly heterosexual males.
I'm not upset with it. Yeah, I'm not upset with it. What I'm upset with is that we've allowed her to come out of the closet and be up in front of 2, 3, and 6-year-old kids that don't even understand anything. And that's when
I don't think anybody's being pro-molestation. I don't think anybody's being pro-molestation.
No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is it's not natural for a man to parade around with 52 size fake breasts and dance. And I've seen the videos, and it is not clean. It is disgusting.
Oh, there's some that are outrageous. Yes, absolutely. But there's some that are some that are clean. Yeah, but there are also some that are absolutely clean and 100% PG in front of kids
but
as
what's
well.
The benefit? What's the benefit?
What do you mean by the benefit
to the child?
If
this occurs, why should that child see a overweight man running around in a thong on a stage somewhere?
I had talked about that seems to be an R-rated example that you are given, which is strange. When I talked about PG examples, having a male or a female dressed up as a costume, and if it's even their persona on a stage or in a performance or reading a book that may not be their gender, that's to me, I don't see the harm necessarily. You're talking about the benefit. Well, the benefit could be a performance. It could be something involved in theater. It could be something being read as far as a book and exposure to the story. Just because someone is wearing a costume that you may not like or disagree with, I don't think necessarily causes harm to the child.
It is interesting to me that you refer to it as costume, because I think at the end of the day, the harm is that you're teaching kids that they can change their gender.
Well, the issue is, I'm saying that the reason I use the term costume is because with drag queens, 9 times out of 10, when they are in their private life, they dress as male. And then when they get on stage, they present as a female, and that female is a different person. The example that I will give you is, again, one of my absolute favorite drag queen names, Jinx Monsoon. Won RuPaul's Drag Race twice, featured on Hairspray on Broadway in the performance, has been in movies, has been in TV shows. Again, awesome name, Jinx Monsoon. That's a cool professional wrestling name.
Let me go down to the beach portion now. When I was older, I was beach guard. So Huntington, Newport Beach, which is called the big beaches. And we would shoo off what I'll call the creeps, and they would go down to a place like Laguna, which is right across the bay, right where they used to shoot sea hunt with Lloyd Bridges. So you have your kids on the beach, they're playing in sand, having fun. You're going to have fun. You're a parent. You don't want to creep around your child. And whether it's, my opinion is simple. If you hurt or touch a child or abduct a child, you're going to die. and I'll do it, and I'll go to jail.
I can do that too.
And I've been there. I've grabbed these creeps by the arm. Let me ask you a question, Billy. Why do they always have skinny little arms and absolutely punky looking weird dudes, just like in the book?
Yeah.
And we throw them off the beach, physically throw them off the beach, and
Obviously.
they go to Laguna. So I have a very, very definite position on that because I've seen it, and I've seen what they're
Jay,
they're like predators.
Jay, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Jay's line will be open 303-696-1971. Look, we're all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain, especially if you're getting older. You got to keep those joints moving. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with Ultra Cur. Look, there's lots of curcumin products out there. Many of them will make you pay. UltraCur believes so much in their product, they're willing to give it away for free. Experience UltraCur for free by going to any Denver Metro natural grocers and asking for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. It's fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge. If you've tried everything without much success, try UltraCur. Head to the natural grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial, no strings attached. If you're wondering about the research, get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Ron, we'll get to you in a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories that we're following. President Joe Biden says the International Criminal Court's request for an arrest warrant for Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu is, quote, outrageous. On Monday, the ICC's prosecutor announced he's seeking arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, Defense Minister, and 3 Hamas leaders in relation to alleged war crimes in Gaza. The Israeli government and Palestinian leaders strongly deny the allegations. A group of judges will evaluate the request before any arrest warrants can be issued. China has scolded South Korean and Japanese lawmakers for attending the inauguration of Taiwan's new president on Monday. Beijing claims democratic, self-governed Taiwan as its own. Laura Westbrook has the story.
Beijing issued the rebukes after lawmakers from South Korea and Japan attended the inauguration of William Lai Ching-te in Taipei. China urged South Korea to take practical steps to protect bilateral relations, and it urged Japan to stop its provocative political manipulations. Neither country sent an official delegation, but some lawmakers made the trip over. In Hong Kong, Laura Westbrook for Salem News Channel.
And that's what you need to know this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to Ron in Stapleton. Ron, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Hi, guys. I loved what Mr. Guggenheim had to say, and I just want to say, starting out, that there's nothing wrong with being gay. If you want to be gay, just be gay. But this whole trans thing, the grooming is not in the sexual grooming that Bill's talking about. It's in the grooming of the mind to by leftists that overwhelmingly vote LGBT leftists. I mean, LGBT people overwhelmingly vote Democrat. The grooming to accept the whole lifestyle, to create gender confusion. And I'll tell you where the harm comes in. Okay, kids nowadays, you take a poll in 1990, maybe 8 to 10% identify as trans. Now you take a poll in any, most colleges, there are 40, 50%, which, means they're gender confused. And, those people tend to vote Democrat. Okay. And they're unhappy with their lives. They're unhappy with themselves. That's why they do that for the most part. And, it causes problems in society because less people are, choosing a family life, which, as is been well determined that strong families build strong nations and so forth. And that's where the harm comes in, the confusion created and the chaos in these people's minds and all the mental health issues.
I understand what you're saying, but the transgendered are less than a fraction of a percent of our society.
Ron
is giving them a lot of sway as to whether or not we have families or whether or not things are happening inside society. And what I can do, Ron, is I can take your exact statement that you said right there, and we can jump back in time to the 1950s and replace transgenderism with homosexuality, and all of the arguments are exactly the same. All the arguments made then are exactly the same as you're saying right now. And we didn't have the society necessarily fall apart. It was about gender confusion. It was about things that are not going well. And so I disagree. And the idea that all of a sudden we have, all of a sudden people through the 50s, 60s, and 70s go, oh my God, where are all these gay people coming from? They were there. They just weren't allowed to be out in public. It's not an explosion of it. It's just now that we're recognizing them and allowing them to be who they are.
Bill, you're confusing with the actual transition, physical transition of transgenders versus transgenders in the mind. Okay, there's a ton of trans. I want to say that they just had, look at the polls in the colleges. 40% of kids in college nowadays, at summer colleges, identify as transgender. That's in the mind. That's confusion in the mind. They don't know what they decide what gender they are on a day-to-day basis.
That's not backed up. Again, you're making an assumption that's not backed up in proof. You've shown me there is the poll, but nothing inside of that poll says they're switching gender on a day-to-day basis. You're making an assumption to denigrate the population because you don't like them. That's okay, but be fair about it.
I don't say I don't like them.
Yes, you do.
I said day-to-day basis. You jumped on that, but at will. Okay. They change their genders at will.
I don't see any of that. There are some that are gender fluid. I do know some people that present as male one day and present as female the other day, but that is much smaller than the actual transgender population. The vast majority of transgender populations represent as a single sex.
I want to, Ron, hold on. Ron, hold on a second. Abigail Schreier, writer with the Wall Street Journal, did a really good book on the growing social contagion, particularly among young women in middle school and high school, that are now finding that the awkwardness that they would traditionally go through is, they believe, related to the idea that they might be in the wrong body. And now you're pushing numbers over 20%. And this is going to have long-lasting impacts, especially what stood out to me, Bill, was when Rich Guggenheim, and I don't know if this is a true statistic, but my goodness, if it's anywhere close, it's scary, that 97% of people that explore transgenderism will somehow engage in medical transition?
Again, I have not seen that supported in any way, shape, or form. But even if so, again, as long as that is how that person feels and they feel they're in the wrong body, we should, when they're adults, when they're adults, we should allow them to go through medical transition. I would never advocate for medical transition or any sort of medical, even down to like plastic surgery things for kids. under the age of 18. I don't agree with that. And when you have parents giving their kids under 18, lip reductions, lip enhancements, other sorts of plastic surgery that aren't medically necessary, absolutely wrong. And the same thing with transition, for medical transition at that age, absolutely
but
wrong.
A lot of this, and I appreciate that, but the idea that this just all of a sudden starts when they're 18, this has been building for years through middle school and high school, and then all of a sudden, okay, now you're 18, you can do this.
Now maybe Ron knows, Jeff, maybe you know, what is the percentage of our transgender adult population right now? I mean, just guessing.
Let me ask you a question.
Now,
why
growing.
How come leftists like Governor Polis and leftists in the Colorado Legislature don't give people a choice? They outlawed therapy to explore people's gender dysphoria.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, Ron, is that if somebody, because I fought against this bill, testified against it.
Yep.
If somebody goes to a counselor in the state of Colorado, a state licensed counselor, and says, I believe I'm in the wrong body, the counselor is mandated by law to counsel them to embrace transgenderism, because counsel them to stay in that body as a boy or a girl, and to go, well, let's explore some other things here, is, quote, conversion therapy. So you can only counsel in one direction at this point in the state of Colorado for a minor, and that is to embrace transgenderism. Go ahead, Ron.
If they've explored and they're still trans, then so be it, But, they're taking away the choice. They're mandating this because they know that people who are, confused overwhelmingly vote Democrat. It's a grooming of the mind. What it is.
I disagree, Ron.
Ron, I appreciate the call.
Appreciate the call, and I go back to the idea of the percentage of the population, because Ron brings up the study about 40% in a poll said on college campuses that they are now transgender. Where are they on the general population? Those are adults. They're not in the general population. And what we're seeing here, but we're not seeing them in the general population. We also have those middle school kids that are getting older. They're not in the general population. So I understand these idea where they say this larger percentage of these people have these questions about it, but we're not seeing that come to fruition on the tail end of it. We're not seeing a huge explosion of the transgender population in the general public. And that's what you would assume. If you're going to have 40% of college students identify as transgender, we would have a significant number of transgenders right now. And we don't. We simply don't have those. The numbers don't back up what those polls say.
I want to talk to you all about American financing. Everything is still really expensive. And by the time you fill up your car and buy groceries, there's not much left. Thank you, Bidenomics. So you end up swiping your credit card, trapping you in high interest credit card debt. If you're a homeowner, American financing can help you. Interest rates have dropped into the 5s, the lowest they've been in a long time, and much lower than your credit card interest rate. American financing is saving customers an average of $854 a month by using the cash in their home to pay off high interest debt. That's $10,000 a year. Make the free 10-minute call to see how much you can save. They never charge any upfront fees. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Give them a call. Call American Financing, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, consumeraccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 start at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 303-695-7000 for details about credit costs and terms. All right, we'll continue with your calls and texts. My goodness, we've got a lot of text messages. We'll try to get to these. Thank you so much for engaging in this conversation. And in the 9 o'clock hour, Mike Buck's going to join us. He's running for county commissioner in Elbert County. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. My goodness, the text messages are coming through.
It's been so much fun.
This was a good one. Bill, the biggest problem is they are now pushing their lifestyle on children and on the rest of us to totally accept their lifestyle as normal and moral. That's 1193. 5634, the nurse I worked with back in the 90s. They're talking about the guy down in Trinidad.
Oh, yeah.
Sold his, remember, we used to be the sex change capital of the world here. Trying to get past the ones where they're calling you names.
I know there are a lot of those. And it's
PG
I appreciate
is
it.
13 and over. Is this audience targeted by drag queen story time? I don't think so.
Well, the thing for me is that but can a G movie, just by the inclusion of a drag queen reading a book, become PG-13 or R? I'm not sure about that.
All right.
Yeah, there are a lot of name
calling.
I really wish you guys would engage on the topic, though. I mean, it's easy to call me names. That's easy. I mean, I can go to a fifth grade playground and have people call me names. Like,
here's a good one. I mean, this is where I fall on all this, right? There's no reciprocation. The traditional side doesn't get the courtesy we want to extend to the trans side, in the sense that as a culture right now, the idea, like, look at what happened to Harrison Butker. You want to be controversial, promote traditional family values. All right, when we come back, Mike Buck, you've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Tuesday, May 21st. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and most of the time, at least today, a little crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, Mike Buck. He's a candidate for a county commissioner in Elbert County. Now, you may not know much about Elbert County. It's where I live. It's one of the most Republican counties in Colorado. In fact, it's so Republican that even the Democrats don't even run candidates for any of the offices. But things might be changing. There's an effort to turn Elbert County into Aurora. So we're going to talk to Mike Buck about that in just a moment. Let's check in on the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Billy. 50 and mostly sunny in Denver. Expecting highs in the low 60s today. We'll see more storms this afternoon. Yuma in northeastern Colorado was hit hard with incredible hail last night. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story. Okay, here we go. Let's see how long the mainstream media pushes this one. A video was shared on former President Trump's Truth Social account that included a reference to a unified Reich.
The term, which means realm, kingdom, or empire, is considered a reference to the Third Reich rule of Adolf Hitler during the 1930s. The 30-second video posted Monday asked what would happen if Trump won, with the background showing front pages of hypothetical newspapers. Some of the headlines included things such as the border closing and economy skyrocketing, with slightly blurred text below reading industrial strength significantly increased, driven by the creation of a unified Reich. Trump's spokesperson said the video was not made by the campaign and was shared by a staffer who did not see the word while Trump was in court. I'm Michael Kastner.
So how many will leave out staffer?
Yeah, still, you got to be better than that. Come on, boys.
Yeah, come on, be sure. So the View has material for another 5 or 6 months, but gotta be sure. All right, attorney Chris Murray from First and 14th Law joined Jeff and Bill this morning. Trump's defense team is resting its case today in the campaign derailment trial. Judge Mersham told the jury the best thing to do is adjourn for today and hear summations after Memorial Day.
Friday to yesterday, with Michael Cohen's testimony, was an unmitigated disaster for the prosecution in this case. After Cohen's testimony, you don't have to like Donald Trump. You can actually hate Donald Trump actively. If you're sitting in that jury, I don't know how you credit a thing that Michael Cohen has told you. If you don't believe Michael Cohen, you can't convict Donald Trump.
All right, we'll find out soon. After Memorial Day, officials at Denver's Auraria campus say it'll cost nearly $300,000 to repair the grass at the Tivoli after Hamas supporters tore it up the past 3 weeks. Cleanup crews found drug paraphernalia and human waste. Oh, that's beautiful. Deborah Ashby.
There's several burn spots where a lot of the structure sat for the 3.5 weeks, and we'll have to do an assessment as far as cleanliness on the quad.
Let me tell you, it's not clean because they're not clean people. Speaking of human waste.
I agree with that. Very good. Wait, hold on. Let me write that one down. All righty. All right, good. Do you also...
real quick, Blake, do you remember the movie PCU?
I don't. I don't think I saw that one. What was PCU?
So there's a movie in the 90s called Politically Correct University where Jeremy Piven is the main character.
Oh, yeah.
And basically he just wants to throw a party. And the school, this was in the 90s, and the school has become so politically correct, they won't let him throw a party because everybody's going to be offended. And he gives this great speech about what it means to be a college student, you know?
No way.
You just want to get drunk. You just want to hook up. And then finally, the politically correct kids come around and are like, yeah, let's have a party. And I'm forgetting who played the music. It was a Jermaine Rastafarian. Who's the funk guy? Granddaddy of funk, Bill? George Clinton comes and plays and all that. That was the 90s when they had to convince college kids to drop the political, like, feel good and just have a party.
What's the name of it?
PCU, Politically Correct University.
I gotta check that out.
It's totally inappropriate. Who is the guy
awesome.
who?
Piven was good.
Jeremy's good in that. And then who is the guy that directed all the Iron Man movies?
Oh, you don't ask me that stuff, please.
And he was in Swingers.
Oh,
he was the friend in Swingers.
Oh, I can't play that right now.
But he's in that movie too. There's a bunch of guys in. David Spade plays like the little Republican. Wow. He plays the little class Republican who
never seen that.
Joins with the administration to try to shut down the party. It's hilarious.
When was it made?
In like 94 or something.
Really?
Like that. Yeah. Hilarious.
Right during Office Space. Maybe it's
because
it's
before that. It was before Office Space.
Oh, it was. I got to check that out. Okay. Very good. All right. Well, this Coloradan is doing great work. Rich Guggenheim from Gays Against Groomers, leading the way, trying to prevent boys and young men from competing against girls and young women in women's sports in Colorado. On the show last hour, he needs your help with the new ballot initiative.
I've been to 43 of Colorado's 64 counties. I am talking to people all across Colorado, and I am getting the word out. And this is all volunteer. We do not have paid circulators. And so what we really are asking for people to do is to volunteer, to circulate petitions, to sign petitions, and to help us get the word out about this stuff and encourage people to support our initiative. And you can find out more at protectkidscolorado.org.
protectkidscolorado.org. Caitlin Clark has signed a multi-year deal with Wilson Sporting Goods for her own line of signature basketballs. She'll be the first athlete since MJ, the GOAT, that's Michael Jordan, by the way, to have her own collection with Wilson. 46 in Englewood, 47 in Lakewood, and 50 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue the Power Hour coming up. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Temperatures reaching the 70s today with afternoon showers and thunderstorms likely, with some showers and thunderstorms lingering through late evening and early tonight. A few could be strong. Low 70s today, mid 40s tonight. Noticeably cooler Tuesday. Highs only low 60s with showers and a few thunderstorms lingering through Tuesday night. Warming back to near 70 for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with a few late day showers and thunderstorms possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, I'm going to cross the third rail here with some of my Republican friends. Oh, man. Every time I ask county commissioners about development, even the Republican ones, they put their heads down. It's like this secret they don't want to bring up. But here's the truth. I wrote about this about a year ago in the Gazette. Douglas County has had a 25-point shift from being a Republican county to barely eking out Heidi Ganahl in the last gubernatorial. So Mitt Romney wins by 25 points, Douglas County. Heidi Ganahl wins by less than 1 percentage point. They now have a Democrat that represents Highlands Ranch in the state legislature. And so when I bring up the idea that maybe, high density, multifamily development all throughout the area is bringing in people that maybe just demographically aren't necessarily conservatives, and that might be part of the problem. Even my good friends, who I agree with on just about everything else, look at this and they put their head down and they never answer my question. So this is becoming a third rail for me that I'm willing to get on, because I think Republicans need to talk about it. Now, what's going to happen in Elbert County is what happened in Douglas County. Is if you partner with developers who bring in high density multifamily, you're going to change the entire county. And right now, Elbert County is one of the most Republican counties in Colorado. But there's a group out there that wants to turn Elbert County into Aurora. And I'm not happy about it because it's where I live. So this is a race that's building and could be something that shapes the future of Colorado in a big way. Joining us in studio is Mike Buck. He's one of the candidates for Elbert County Commissioner, and he's one of the guys that doesn't want Elbert County to become Aurora, which I appreciate. Mike, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Jeff, thanks for having me. I can tell you guys enjoy the show and are having fun, so it's great to be here.
Pull the mic just a little bit closer to you so we can get your voice nice and loud and clear. There you go. All right, great.
But I am one of those conservatives that's here to answer your questions, not afraid to talk about it. And I'm fighting for a way of life. The people that I talk to feel like they're losing their country.
Yep.
On a larger scale, they're losing their state. And on a small scale, they feel like they're losing their county, and it's coming out from a very aggressive metro area.
Yeah.
And we're seeing those changes.
And part of it's led by the state capitol. So you have a series of laws that are being passed. They're going to basically force any county along the I-25 corridor and the I-70 corridor to implement density requirements. So they're going to force apartment complexes upon these counties, force condos upon these counties, even if they don't want them. Because they put light rail in Douglas County, for instance, you're going to end up with a lot of apartments around there. So it's part of it's coming from the capital itself. But you also have an element, and we've seen this in Elbert County, of developers coming in. They'll essentially partner with Republicans, and in doing so, change the entire county. Outside of my window, for instance, I'm watching 900 homes being put up in a place called Independence, Colorado. And what's bizarre about it is it shouldn't even be there. You have all these beautiful ranches, right? 10-acre ranches, 15-acre ranches, 100-acre ranches. And then with no grocery stores, no schools, they put 900 homes jam-packed so close to each other that you could literally touch them. And part of this is because developers pushed this on county commissioners that were like, I'm willing to do it.
Well, before I answer that question, I want to just clarify I'm not related to Ken Buck.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to get
especially
that.
in Elbert County.
I just wanted to get that out there
yeah.
to your audience. And I think if I would have ran in that last campaign as Mike Buck, the conservative candidate, against Ken Buck, the Rhino, I think we might have had a different. We might have had a different outcome. So I just wanted
not related.
I just wanted to clarify that. And what you're basically talking about, that Independence project, is not compatible with surrounding land use.
Yep.
Now, our rules and regs and our master plan, comprehensive plan, state that those developments are supposed to be compatible with surrounding land uses.
Yeah.
I spoke against that Independence project as a citizen. I got my 3 minutes. I stood up. I said, this is not compatible. The density is too high. We recently had another development called EC West.
Yep.
I voted against it. 2,800 cluster home development with a commercial component. 3 sides was zoned ag land. 1 side was a subdivision on acreage, and they tried to tell me it was compatible with surrounding land use. It is not. I voted no. I'm not afraid to stand up to developers, fight for the county. I can live anywhere in the world I want. I choose to live in Elbert County. I choose to fight for Elbert County and the citizens of Elbert County.
No, the response you get oftentimes for Republicans when it comes to development, and let me help people understand what's happening in Colorado. You have these big ranches, 1,000 acres, right? And people are dying and their kids don't want to manage 1,000 acres, right? So who do you sell 1,000 acres to? I can't afford that. Nobody else is. So this is happening all throughout the eastern plains of Colorado right now. And the only person that can buy 1,000 acres is a developer. Now, the developer's motivation is to get as much money as they can out of that acreage, right? And I don't blame them for that. And their argument is property rights. Come on. We are conservatives. I bought that land. I want to put in as many townhomes as I possibly can all throughout eastern Colorado because there's a demand for affordable housing. I have the property. I should be able to do it. What's wrong with that?
That's the mindset. And I'm a big property rights guy. Now, what you need, though, is rules and regulations that are a tool for the county that they would then be required to follow based on your comprehensive plan, based on your rules and regs. Right now, our rules and regs are a tool for the developer. And a good mechanic knows you have to have the right tools.
So explain people how it's a tool for developers in Colorado.
Well, for example, the term generally compatible.
Yeah.
They'll hold up your guidelines in an open meeting and say, well, it says here, it just has to be generally compatible. That's a vague statement.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say it has to be consistent. Doesn't say it has to be the same with surrounding land use, just generally compatible. The first thing we need to do, and I have a written plan for growth in Elbert County. I haven't disclosed it yet. I haven't promoted it yet. I'm kind of holding it close to my vest as the campaign unfolds, because I don't want my competitors or my opponents to all of a sudden have a plan. But it starts with defining what the words rural community mean as a county. That needs to be defined. And then you resurvey the citizens, see what they want to see the future of Elbert County to become. Do they want it to be Aurora? They've got a couple cluster home developments under their belt now.
Yep.
Is that the future that they want? Yes or no? And then you adjust your comp plan and move forward. And the last part of that plan is going to be accountability. What
does that mean?
Well, are the developers or any applicants doing what they say they're going to do in the contracts? That needs to be followed up on. So, and there's more steps in there. I just gave you a brief overview, but those are kind of the steps on how you have to do that to make effective change and update your rules and regs.
Yeah, talking with Mike Buck. He's a candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, and it's a competitive district. You've got Bob Lewis, who's also running in. There's another man, John Marshall. Is that
John Waller?
John Waller. He's running for that as well. And Mike, here's what I've seen when I've gone to these county commissioner planning meetings. A lot of backslapping between county commissioners and developers, where, you know, that is a good thing. We're bringing in all this homes. We're bringing in all this tax revenue. We're bringing in all this development. They seem pretty excited about it. And then the citizens get up and the neighbors and are like, you know, turning Elbert County into Aurora is not something I'm all that excited about. And then they kind of just go, huh, okay, we're back to all the tax revenue we're going to get. Talk about why development and bringing in a lot more people for tax revenue is necessarily a bad thing.
Well, first of all, you need more of a plan than just throwing rooftops at a problem. So they want more tax revenue. Everybody does. All government does. Of course, everybody wants more tax revenue, but you need to have a plan that includes other options besides just rooftops. They think if they throw enough rooftops at it, the businesses will come. Well, first of all, you need the processes, the people, and the software in place. When a business does come into the county, they're not restricted or hampered. I know 3 or 4 businesses off the top of my head that own businesses. They live in Elbert County, and they don't want to bring their business to Elbert County. So that needs to be addressed.
Why are they saying they don't want to bring the businesses to Elbert County?
Well, they're saying it because of certain people that they have to work with, certain processes take too long, and that sort of thing. So that needs to be streamlined for the businesses that we do want, and there needs to be a multi-pronged plan instead of just putting rooftops out there.
Yeah, I think this is an issue that conservatives got to take a lot more seriously, because if we're unfortunately, and look, there's a lot of good developers out there that are conservatives, and we're not against development. I'm not against development. What I am against is a certain type of development that may maximize profits for the developer, but have essentially brought in a constituency that doesn't share our values anymore, and the county changes. Go ahead, Mike Buck.
I am with you on that 100%. I'm not anti-growth. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we should do a moratorium. What I am saying is high density brings high impact. It brings high impact on your water use, your police force or sheriff's office, your schools, your traffic, your roads, that sort of thing. Now, you can keep it nice. You can have a central water system. Part of the reason they want to go to the high density cluster homes is because they want to drill into the deeper aquifers, because the ranchers and the residents are in the upper Dawson and some of the more shallow aquifers. Mm-hmm. So the theory is, well, the developers can dig the deeper wells and we can put them in there. But there's nice communities on 2-acre lots with a central water system, 5-acre lots or what have you. And we have them out there. So my preferred is not high density cluster home development. And I don't think the citizens, I haven't talked to hardly any, actually none.
These are ugly developments. Sorry, I'll say it. These are ugly developments.
Well, it's the development style Aurora uses.
Right.
Or, so I don't believe that the citizens of Albert County prefer that method. Now that they've got a couple underneath their belt and they've seen them.
Now, can we describe the developments just for someone that may not be familiar with them in Albert County or anywhere else? Yeah.
Good, Bill.
Let me know what it looks like. Yeah.
How many homes can you fit on a pin of a hand?
Yeah, look out the window. Look out the window. You're in Aurora. Look out the window. You can see.
Yeah, but some listeners might not be though. So I just can't describe it. Yeah.
So these homes are so close together that you can touch them.
Yeah, they're track homes.
They're track homes as far as the eye can see, right? So imagine Highlands Ranch, imagine Aurora, but Highlands Ranch is even nicer. These homes are
well, see, and
not quite as nice.
This is what I was looking for as far as the design and development. Just because again, radio is the auditory medium. That when you have a regular housing development, they come in with several different models, and those models, there are rules about how close those models can be built next to each other. There are also rules that will push them further apart based on extras, what you do in the outside on your stonework, what you do with the porch, what you do with the garage, things like that, because there are always upgrades you can build. So they're trying to keep diversity of neighborhood. In tract homes, it's exactly the opposite. A tract home is built to squeeze as many units as possible, much like you would assume old type of townhomes or duplexes onto a plot. However, they are built identical, that if you start on the far left and walk all the way down to the far right, every single front porch looks the same. Every single front door looks the same. Every single front window looks the same. And they are they are small, narrow rectangles because that helps with density. They're also tall. They're tall and thin housing.
That's
so
right.
The issue being, and what I'm trying to reinforce with our guest and also with Jeff, is the idea that it lacks diversity and it lacks a community feel because it looks just like you've gone through the background in a cartoon and just painted all those houses the same. You don't get any individuality inside of the neighborhoods, and it looks crappy. It does. I agree with you guys. It looks crappy.
We've got a lot of text messages here. 3,300. Same thing happened to Erie. Erie is ruined and gone forever. Wasn't this an episode of Yellowstone? Yes, it was. And in fact, when Kevin Costner goes, elect me as governor because progress stops with me, I was like, if I ever run for office, that's going to be my motto right there. Progress stops with me. Here's one that's personal, Mike. By the way, Mike Buck's in office. This guy was my landlord for a few years back in the mid 2010s. He was a good guy as far as landlords go. I'd rather die than vote Republican, but if you're out there in Elbert County, I can vouch for him. He's a fair and honest guy. The Democrats are willing to come across and say you're a fair and honest guy.
There you go. From 2010 even.
Yeah.
That's a good one. To answer the question about diversity in the housing units themselves, there's a little bit. Every fourth house is the same. So there's a few in between that are a little bit different. But I'd like to see, if we're going to talk about style, let's do a big front porch. Let's do a wraparound front porch. Let's do large eaves. Let's make them look rural.
Yeah. I mean, why is it important for Colorado to maintain its rural roots, from your perspective?
Because people love it.
Yeah.
They don't want to give it up. It's a change, and they've seen what progress looks like, and they're not impressed. Yeah. So
no, it's very true. Here's my concern of what's going to happen to Denver. I lived in Pasadena for years, got a grad degree in Pasadena. Los Angeles is just one big, gross, disgusting city. It just is. And it just goes forever and ever and ever. And you have these like little enclaves, Beverly Hills and Santa Monica, but it's just freeways and track homes as far as the eye can see. And if you don't think that that's what Jared Polis wants to do to this state, you're not paying attention. That is what these high density housing developments are all about. That's what this push to RTD. The dude is driving around on RTD trains by himself, nobody else on him, signing bills last week. because that's what he's trying to get. They want Denver to look like Los Angeles. You can't go west. You can't go west. You run into mountains. So which way do you go? You go east and east and east. And this thing just keeps going and going. And if you want rural land, you want a rural lifestyle, you want, my daughter works at the Dairy Queen in Elizabeth, and they ride horses through the drive-through there. I'm going to go to the Stampede Days in Elizabeth. This is happening all along the Front Range, where they're going to grow eastward and turn these cities into auroras. There's a lot of money to be made. I get it. There's a lot of money to be made by good people. I get the developers are not bad people, but my goodness, just throwing up the biggest, most jam-packed development you can get on as many homes as you can get and growing that east and taking out rural Colorado, I don't like it.
I agree. We're on the same page there, Jeff. You're preaching to the choir with that one for sure. Yeah. For sure.
So what do you, let's go back to what you're going to do. You get in, how do you stop this?
Well, I mentioned I had a written plan. Yeah. Part of it starts with defining what rural community even is. Yeah. I've asked at the county level, we need to get that defined. We need to update our rules and regulations. And I think it starts with that and goes all the way to accountability, like I mentioned. But in between that is resurveying the citizens.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You need to market that. You need to market it better. So you're getting a huge response and really getting all the avenues of marketing of a survey. So you get the biggest response possible. Then you take that information to lead into your comprehensive plan changes, update your comprehensive plan. Now, in 2018, I don't know if I should be saying this on the air, but in 2018, I felt that question, cluster home developments, was skewed to get that answer.
Yeah.
I was at that community meeting back in 2018.
What was the question?
I don't remember the exact question, but I asked about it at the time. I said, who wrote this?
Yeah.
But anyway, so you update your comprehensive plan based on that survey. You update your rules and regs, and you have to strengthen those rules and regs. It's filled with terminology like shall and should, interchangeable. So we shall require the developer to do this, or we should require the developer to do this. Pretty vague. It changes the whole meaning of that rule or regulation. Or may. We may require the developer to do this. What is that? What is generally compatible?
May I please?
What is generally compatible?
Mother, may I?
What does generally compatible mean to you?
Yeah.
Way too vague. Way too vague. So you strengthen your rules and regs. Now you have a tool. Then you have to make sure that the CDS department, or the CED department, they call it now, Community and Economic Development Department, is looking at our rules and regs against the application in a pre-application meeting. Okay. So if the developer brings something in that's not compatible with our rules and regs, don't push it up to the planning commission to vote on. You need to tell them in the pre-application meeting, this is nice, but you need to go back to the drawing board. I'll push it up for you, but I'm not going to recommend it for approval. But don't have it outside of our guidelines and still push it up for people to vote on. That's not how it's supposed to work. Then once that process is sorted out, then you vote accordingly.
I think that puts a lot more protections in for citizens, which I appreciate. We're talking with Mike Buck, Elbert County Commissioner candidate for District 1 in Elbert County, part of a larger effort across Colorado where developers and county commissioners are moving that development eastward, and rural Colorado is going out. So Mike's a candidate to fight against that. We'll continue our conversation with him in just a second. I want to talk to you about QC Kinetics. You guys know I work out a bunch, was a distance runner, and very active. I believe you've got to be active, especially as you get older, to improve your quality of life. But if you're dealing with pain, back pain, knee pain, hip pain, well, check out QC Kinetics Denver. You don't want to jump to surgery unless you have to. As we age, that pain can come in lots of different forms. Why risk surgery when there's a safer option? With no downtime and a free consultation, QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Call 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's painfreecolorado.com to schedule a free consultation. Be sure to tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. We'll continue with Mike Buck, candidate for Elbert County Commissioner. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories that we're following. President Joe Biden says Republicans should, quote, stop playing politics and work with Democrats on a bipartisan border bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is trying once again to pass the Border Act, which includes funding to recruit thousands more officials for the southern border. Senior Republicans, including the Speaker Mike Johnson, say the bill would be, quote, dead on arrival if it ever reaches the House. A previous attempt to pass the Border Act failed earlier this year when former President Donald Trump came out publicly against it. There's growing political pressure to remove the chairman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Greg Clugston brings us more from Washington, D.C.
FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg's job is in jeopardy following a report about the agency's toxic workplace culture and growing calls from Congress for a change in leadership. Senator Sherrod Brown, who chairs the Senate Banking Committee, became the first Democrat to call on President Biden to replace Gruenberg. Last week, a White House spokesperson said there were no personnel decisions to announce at the FDIC, which is one of several banking system regulators. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And that's what you need to know this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Lots of good text messages coming in. We've been discussing this kind of effort to just push high-density multifamily development through all these counties, right? Douglas County now has a Democrat that represents Highlands Ranch. If you don't understand how crazy that is, you don't understand how much this state has changed, okay? When I was Governor Romney's coalitions director, and hey, stop throwing things at me, Bill. When I was Governor Romney's coalitions director in Colorado in 2012 for his presidential campaign, Douglas County was the great bank. And the battles were in Arapahoe and Jefferson counties. We've got to flip those counties. But don't worry, baby. We're going to get all of our votes from Douglas County. Ooh. Douglas County has had a 25-point shift and now is a Democrat that represents Highlands Ranch. Yeah. Okay? I just am asking the question, how did we get here? Yes, you have a demographic shift that came in. You have a different audience that came in. You have people from California that moved in. But the vehicle that allowed that to happen was high-density multifamily development that allowed people to move in there. Now you have Jared Polis that's going all the way up and down the I-25 corridor, going every county along the I-25 corridor is going to be mandated by the state to implement high-density multifamily. There's a change happening, guys. Yeah. And then they're pushing east. Okay, so they're going further into Arapahoe County, all the way out to the airport, all of this push. So that's where the development's going to take place. And joining us is Mike Buck. He's a candidate for Elbert County Commissioner.
Can I follow up on that just for a second?
Back on this. Yes. Go ahead, Bill. Yeah. Just
because I got to follow up on the rant that you're going on, because I'm gonna go even a little bit further. And the thing that pisses me off the most about this mandated high density development is the fact that we're not allowing them to transition into homeowners. Yes, we've talked about it. It's apartments based on the flaws in our construction defects laws that the Democrats are not going to fix. Those high density developments are going to be apartments, not condos. What is the average person in Colorado right now struggling with in terms of housing? Can't afford it. And they can't build up enough of a nest egg in order to get into the home to start their families. If you want these people to become Coloradans, if you want them to stop being transitional and transitory, you need to allow them to put down roots. And when you don't allow them to build up that equity with condos, they can't do it. We can talk about housing prices being out of control on single family homes. Condos is the solution. It allows a little bit of a build. It allows you to have a little bit of equity. Also, when you have that equity, you're concerned about your neighborhood. Yes. You want to solve the problems of your neighborhood, not just looking at going, well, honey, we can just take that deposit and we can go down the road and we can go to the next apartment because it doesn't matter. It allows growth in the neighborhoods and the communities. You want these people to become Coloradans and get rid of their California crap? Allow them to buy condos and become homeowners.
Lots of text messages
Thank
here.
you.
1712. Appreciate you, Bill. Boy, Jeff, God bless you. I'm a Colorado native of 75 years, and this Jerry Polis has made this state a pit, in my opinion. 7061. Come on over here to Roxborough community and see what's happening off of Rampart Range in Waterton. Disgusting.
Oh, I have been through there. It is awful. Absolutely 110% right, Texture. What they're doing over there is horrid. Yeah, you're right.
Same thing happened in Erie. This is 3300. Erie's ruined and gone forever. Generally compatible, Mike, is why I'm divorced.
That's the text of the morning. That is the text of the morning. You win. You win.
So Mike Buck, he's an Elbert County Commissioner. We dived into some of these policy issues in a second. We're going to get to know him a little bit better here in a second. I want to talk to you about good dentists, though. If you know me and you've been on this show for a while, God did not bless me with good teeth. It's a genetic issue, and I'm at the dentist all the time as a result of it. I know good dentists, and Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group is a good one. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. You can see for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Do yourself a favor. Go there. Staff goes beyond expectations, and they provide excellent service, affordable, friendly, gentle, careful, kind service. And if you're experiencing recession of your upper and lower gums, ask Dr. Mike about the groundbreaking procedure called pinhole gum rejuvenation technique, a treatment option for those experiencing receding gums. Look, that happens to us naturally as we get older, and especially if you deal with braces later in life, you can have receding gums. This procedure is scalpel-free, suture-free, and is a graft-free procedure. It's just a tiny pinhole and a gentle repositioning of the gums. Visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, or call 303-233-1335 for a free consultation. 303-233-1335. All right, Mike Buck, not related to Ken Buck, which is hilarious because you put that on your website. You're running as a Republican candidate in Elbert County. We talked about your vision, how you're going to kind of stop the crazy development that's happening out there. Mike, why did you choose to move to Elbert County? And I say this with a lot of caution because I don't want people to know the secret of Elbert County, but why did you move there years ago?
Well, I originally, and I have a relative that lives out there in Kiowa. So we were visiting. We lived in town and we wanted to raise a family. My wife and I, we've been married 35 years this fall, and we wanted to raise a family, and we thought the Elizabeth area was a perfect environment for that. It's peaceful, small town environment. You knew everybody.
Yeah.
It was just the right spot for us at the time.
We're just losing that small town feel. What do you like about the small town feel? Like, what in particular, when you drive down Main Street in Elizabeth, or you got the Dairy Queen there, you just got, people going 30 miles an hour, trucks, lots of trucks, hay, horses everywhere.
You know them on a first name basis. You could live here in one of these subdivisions in Aurora. You got a next door neighbor that's 5 feet away. You don't even know their name or the person across the street, but you got somebody 5 acres away or 5 miles away. You know them.
Right.
And they're good friends. You have barbecues together, their kids. It's just different. It's just flat out different. And you have to experience it to love it like I do. But it's just a way of life. It's just a way of life. And when you come into the city, I never come into Denver unless I have to. And when I do, thank God I made it back. And it's just a big sigh of relief. And you just all of a sudden relax.
Well, one of the things that I found amusing about Elbert County when we first moved out there about 3 years ago was people shoot their guns all the time. So if you had, like our neighbor, it's Saturday morning, he's popping off, right? And if this was Highlands Ranch, every next door app out there, dear, gunshots. I'm like, it's Elbert County. And I remember talking to law enforcement one time out there, and they're like, oh yeah, so long as the bullets stays on your property, we don't really care that much.
Okay. I got to interrupt here just for a second. The fact that you talk about the idea of Highlands Ranch and the difference there versus what's going on. I have to share that as a younger child, this is before the age of maturity, my friends and I might have been perusing the Highlands Ranch community back when, I don't know, it was still a landfill. And we used to go shoot rats and pigeons there with 22s.
That's right.
So yes, I have personal experience of being in that Highlands Ranch neighborhood, popping off with a firearm again
before next door.
Yes, before it was developed at all.
Was that a backfire? Was that?
Yeah, it was completely just rolling lands, and it was before they get development. Yeah, sorry.
But think about the lifestyle though, Jeff. You have horses, you have chickens, you have dogs that can run free without having to be on a leash. Yep. I mean, there's a lot of things to enjoy, and there's a lot of good 4-H clubs out there. There's a lot of good people. You got the rodeo, you got the ranchers and farmers out there. Those are good people.
Absolutely. One of the other things that we like, so next door in Elbert County doesn't have the gun popping off, but people's animals get out all the time. And so they'll just be like, saw a pig at the corner of County Road 5 and 124. And then somebody will jump on and go, oh, that's Samantha's pig.
I love the fact they know whose pig it is.
Yeah, they're like, that's Samantha's pig. I'll
fantastic.
help you. We'll go down, and oftentimes people just take the animals back to their property because they know whose they are and that the gate got open. Yep. And they just open the gate and put them back in.
Again, the idea of community, the idea of homeownership, the idea of the people living in Elbert County are there for a particular reason. They're there because of the lifestyle. And I firmly agree with you that the city and suburban lifestyle should not be forced into those communities, especially in the way that they are. And you're absolutely right that the biggest problem in this development is they don't have the support services, schools. They don't have utilities, and they don't have grocery stores. Yeah, it's going to be great going out and living rurally in Elbert County, but when you have to drive so many, miles,
40 minutes to go to the grocery store,
just to the grocery store. Yeah, and you think the people that are going to buy those apartments can be very happy with that renting? Yeah. You think they're going to be happy with the fact that, hey, wait, I'm in an apartment here, but I got to drive 40 minutes for the. Hang on, yeah, this development is stupid. It's the way they're going about it is absolutely asinine.
Well, they'll have to put a store right nearby so they don't have to drive 40 minutes. Now, we know that it's worth driving 40 minutes, you stock up. You have
right.
you have a
Yep.
closet or pantry that you stock, and you only go into town once a week or once every 2 weeks,
or a freezer that you have in your garage.
That's right.
Yeah, in your
That's
larger
right.
garage. Absolutely.
So coming out to our place here soon is Roll 'em Out Shelves. In fact, next Wednesday, they're going to be at our place installing. We've got to know Joyce and Brent Tolliver, absolutely wonderful people with Roll 'em Out Shelves. So these are shelves for your kitchen, your laundry room, or your bathroom that are high quality shelves. So we don't have a big kitchen. We have a small ranch house that we live in, 6 people. We're all kind of dinner time. We're all, reaching over each other, that type of thing. So we don't have a lot of storage space. Things are kind of stacked on top of each other. Roll 'em Out Shelves can take those traditional pantries or those shelves in the laundry room and turn them into pull-out shelves. And the quality is way different than what you get with builder grade. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, first of all, it's like having your mom and brother over. They share our values. You're going to talk about faith. You're going to talk about family. You're going to talk about this love of this country. And then they'll install Roll 'em Out Shelves for you. Get into the details. Totally professional. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. Rollemoutshelves.com. They'll be out at our house next Wednesday, finally getting that installation done, which will be great. And my wife will be very happy with that. All right. Mike Buck in studio with us, Elbert County Commissioner candidate in District 1. Mike, we're a big Republican county. They don't even run Democrats out in Elbert County. You get along well with the Republican Party, Tom Peterson, those folks out there, or are they kind of lean in a different direction? How are you going to work with Republicans in our county?
Well, at the end of the day, we're all small government, the same values, and we may agree to disagree from time to time, but they're good people too, and we'll just see how that all goes forward.
How about the sheriff out there? You get along with the sheriff and those guys?
Love the sheriff. And here's a fun fact for you: all those deputies know how to fix and mend fence. So,
yeah, that's true, because they got to put cattle back in.
When an animal gets out, they can put it back in. so that's a fun fact for you there. But love all the sheriff's officers for sure.
Yeah,
and just the men and women in blue that protect our families. You got to hats off to them.
What are their concerns? Have you talked to them at all about the growth that's taking place in Elbert County?
I have.
The issues they're dealing with?
I've talked to them in great length.
Yeah, is meth coming in? Fentanyl? Are they dealing with that city stuff now starting to come in?
They got crime, but they're trying to build a team. And for the future, they see some of the growth. They have some turnover. They're trying to keep their core group of people together and build a positive team to handle this growth and be proactive. They're looking at a new justice center that they'd like to implement in the next few years. But yeah, really good guys, salt of the earth guys.
Yeah, they're losing their guys to the Wyoming sheriff. We had him. Right. He was on our show yesterday, the guy who put a billboard in downtown Denver. By the way, Bill, I didn't tell you this, but the guy who was installing my sprinkler system yesterday, we were hanging out afterwards, former DPD, he got tired of it. He's just, he's like, I'm done being DPD. He's like, I'm still on their text message threads. And that billboard has made it every DPD fantastic. Police officers talking about going to Wyoming now to get rid of the craziness in this city.
Oh my God. And I love the fact that it just happened to drop where they fill up a majority of their patrol cars.
Exactly.
Now, again, Wyoming sheriff didn't know that at the time. He just was doing it based on cost, but that's great marketing.
As you're describing rural lifestyle, here's a text message. Some HOA president is screaming, no, and pulling out their hair. 3,300. My kids and I were discussing what an HOA is yesterday, and I was like, no, they don't. But look, my neighbor's got a bunch of junkers in his yard. Doesn't bother me at all, man. He can live that way. I don't care. I want to talk to you about Dan Kaplis. Great guy. I've known Dan for years. You know him, the lawyer, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan is with us on faith, family, freedom. He's pro-life. This guy shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. So not only does he share your values, this guy is a titan. right? You're going to court. You want a fighter there with you. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. He accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Mike Buck, Elbert County Commissioner, candidate for District 1. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show, joining us in studio.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the tough questions, too. If you want to learn more about him, his website is mbuck4ec.com. That's as in Elbert County, mbuck4ec.com. No relation to Ken Buck. Final word, Mike?
Number 4.
Number 4, that's right. Number 4, mbuck, number 4ec.com. Final word.
Final word. Thanks for having me on, Jeff. I really enjoyed it. Was a little bit nervous at first. Never been on the radio before, but I'll do whatever it takes to save Elbert County. You better believe it.
That's what I appreciate. Thanks for fighting for our rural values, Mike. Bob Lewis, another candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, will be joining us tomorrow. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Fantastic. Jeff, thank you to everybody that was a part of the conversation today. Chris Murray joined us in the 6 o'clock hour to dive into the Trump trials.
Oh, he's awesome.
We basically have a Harvard-educated former deputy counsel to presidential candidates joining us to analyze that.
He's very smart.
So he
so cool.
ups the level of the sophistication of the show in a big way.
I'd bring it down so far. Yes.
Rich Guggenheim joined us in the 7 o'clock hours. Gays Against Groomers, they're leading an effort to stop men from competing in women's sports here in Colorado. ProtectKidsColorado.org if you want to join them. And then Mike Buck, candidate for Elbert County Commissioner, trying to stop development out east, kind of taking the Yellowstone development stops with me.
I like the cut of his jib. I like what he had to say.
If you missed all of it, 710knus.com. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great day.